Well, the Florida sun is shining, but you might want to bring the jacket today. The new look Atlanta Braves are in town as Jeremy Hefner gets the ball for the Mets. Always time to sign autographs. Zach Wheeler making a young girl happy. Lucas Duda as the Mets getting ready for some spring baseball under the sunshine. A bit chilly, but nonetheless great day here in Port St. Lucie. Spring training baseball on SNY presented by Citi. It's the New York Mets taking on the Atlanta Braves. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. Alongside my partner, Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. And when we look at this Atlanta Braves team, Ron, a lot of changes for this squad. And you look with this outfield. They made big moves. Jason Hayward's still there, but he's the star of this team now, the Upton brothers included.
Well, just a great move by Frank Wren, their general manager, to have the three great stars out there in the outfield. You see their numbers. I even think their numbers should be better than that. You see Upton with the speed of the two brothers. But they said that this spring training so far, Jason Hayward has really been a leader and has had great chemistry with these two young budding superstars. This should be a great year in the outfield for the Braves.
You want to talk about the chemistry, so much so that manager Freddie Gonzalez is playing all three of them at the same time and giving all three the exact same days off. So they are really forming a bond for the Atlanta outfield. Meanwhile, with the news of Johan Santana behind schedule, the Mets are looking for maybe another starter here. And one of the guys auditioning who get the ball today, it's Jeremy Hefner. And we saw him a lot at the major league level last year.
You know, what you got to love about Hefner is the strike thrower. 5-to-1 ratio on his strikeouts, the bases on balls. He was up with the Mets 3 different stints last year. He had some great outings and not so great outings. 4 wins and 6 losses as a starter last year.
Meanwhile, for the Braves, seems like we've been saying his name forever, but Mr. Reliable, Tim Hudson, healthy this year after the back surgery last year.
3 wins away from 200. He's 105 and 65 in a Braves uniform. 40 games over 500. One of the best pitchers of his generation.
He'll be the Braves opening day starter. He'll get the ball today against Jeremy Hefner. The Mets and the Braves here in Port St. Lucie. Spring baseball coming your way. We've got the first pitch in a moment. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets, by Budweiser, and by WB Mason, excuse me. Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field on sale now. Get your tickets for the Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone at 718-507-TIXX. Ticket operators are standing by right now. Here's who's pitching for the Mets today. We told you that Hefner gets a start. Rafael Montero, an up-and-comer in this system. Great year at St. Lucie last year, will be next. Parnell, Familia, and then Edgin. Three guys who could easily be in that Mets bullpen. Will come on a little bit later for Terry Collins against the Braves. But Hefner is the guy getting the start today. Take a look around the majors, brought to you by Citi. Cubs with a big injury news. Matt Garza probably missed the first month of the season with a strained lat, and also the Cardinals, same thing with Rafael Furcal. Although, Ronnie, they did all right without him last year with Pete Kozma. It might be he and a combination of others again. And the Royals, they're a team that thinks they can compete. If spring records mean anything, they're 9-0 so far this spring.
They picked up Wade Davis and James Shields.
The Royals off to a good start. Nice, breezy, chilly day in Florida. Good day for baseball. First pitch, Mets and Braves next. Let's check out the Braves starting lineup for this afternoon, brought to you by Toyota. They brought their starting outfield, Hayward, Upton, and Upton. Sounds like a law firm out there. They get the starts today, and both of the guys vying for the job at third base are in the lineup too. Juan Francisco and Chris Johnson. Johnson at first base for this afternoon's game.
Well, I said before, Jeremy Hefner, 3 different stints with the Mets last year, and 13 games started, 4-6 with a 5.32 ERA. But his last 2 starts of the season, he racked up 12 straight scoreless innings. And behind Jeremy in defense today is Duda in left field. Matt then Decker in center field's had a great catch, couple great catches already. Bird in right, Lutz, Tejada, Turner, and Davis. Lutz in, of course, because David Wright has gone to the WBC.
And Hefner starts off Reed Johnson with a first pitch strike. And we're underway here in Port St. Lucie. Chance for Turner. Nice stop, makes the throw, 1 down. Justin Turner's getting a lot of reps at second base with Daniel Murphy injured, and he's making the most of it.
Well, great range here by Turner at second base.
And the one thing about Turner, if he gets to it, he's so sure-handed. Nice play.
So 1 out for Jeremy Hefner. That'll bring up Jason Hayward, who's coming off a career year, his 3rd year in the bigs. 27 home runs, 21 stolen bases for him, just 23 years old. Hefner pops him up. And Bird will make the catch for the 2nd out. Good quick start for Jeremy Hefner. And, you know, with Johan Santana in the news for the Mets, of course, rumblings coming out. The Mets were unhappy that he's not in pitching shape. Sandy Alderson described it to media folks yesterday. You know, and there's certainly a question if Santana's going to be ready for opening day or even the opening couple weeks. Jeremy Hefner becomes even more important, right? Not only as a long reliever type, but a chance to be in this rotation.
Well, I think you make the great point there, Kevin. His versatility. He's a guy that can go back and forth, and you don't need to, you know, what's the word they use, lengthen him out to get him ready for a start. He can just move back and forth from starting to relieving.
Now Justin Upton for the Braves takes strike 1. Upton, well, both Uptons you could say are the crown jewel, but Justin was the big 7-player trade that GM Frank Wren engineered. And Upton has been on the block for a while. And he hits this one deep to left field, and that is going to go a long way. Off the palm tree. Home run for Justin Upton.
Well, one of these 3 outfielders, BJ and Justin Upton or Jason Hayward, have been going deep, it seems like, every day. That's a fastball that Hefner was trying to get inside, and he is just so quick and so powerful. It's amazing that a young player with that much talent was a guy that you said, Kevin, was on the block for so long.
He just fell out of favor in Arizona as now his brother BJ Upton.
Wow. Just trying to get inside, didn't have any sink on it, and wind blowing out today.
It's one of those guys that for some reason just didn't gel with manager Kirk Gibson out in Arizona and a couple members of the front office, but, you know, 25-year-old with that talent. And Hefner comes back with the strikeout on 3 pitches of BJ Upton. So Hefner gets 3 quick outs but allows the home run to Justin Upton. That's coming up next. Mets starting lineup brought to you by Geico today. You've got Den Decker and Cowgill leading off. Dave Wright, of course, away at the World Baseball Classic. So Zach Lutz gets the turn at third base. And Travis d'Arnaud starting behind the dish. So Mets fans get a chance to see him as Matt Den Decker leads it off against Tim Hudson. And he takes outside for ball one. Tim Hudson's been great for a long, long time, Ronnie.
You know, I said he's one of the best pitchers of his generation. You know, he does it with guile. He sinks the ball. He changes speeds. He has great instincts for the game, great intelligence, and a tenacious competitor. Couldn't have more great things to say about Hudson in his career.
37 years old for Hudson, coming off a 16-7 year in his 15th year now. Roger McDowell and Carlos Tosca. Similar profile pictures there.
Yeah, about a 3-day growth. Yeah, they got to work in.
2-1 to Den Decker. Chance for B.J. Upton, and there's one down.
Well, you can make the argument that the best outfield defense in the National League could be the outfield that's going to be out there. Johnson playing left today, but Justin Upton's going to be out there. Upton in center made the catch. Hayward, Francisco, Pasternicki, DeWitt, and Johnson. That's Chris Johnson at first base, who they're thinking of third base, and Christian Bethancourt behind the plate, a up-and-coming star for the Braves.
That'll bring up Colin Cowgill. He has had a tremendous spring. 8 of 16, already 3 doubles and a home run and 2 steals. It's about as good as a start as you can imagine with a new team. And he takes strike 1 from Hudson. Cowgill DHing today, and you know, tough news for Kirk Neuenhuis yesterday, who probably would be starting today's game. He injured his left knee on a slide into second base against the Marlins in Jupiter, and Cowgill's got another base hit. Anyway, Neuenhuis in the MRI tube as we speak. The feeling around the Mets is at least they hope there are no torn ligaments. You can't really tell until the picture's taken, but you know, Neuenhuis said it was a little unstable. The thought process may be a bone bruise. You don't know, but you know, kid's trying to make an impression, make the team, and now he's going to be out at least a little bit, you would think, depending on the diagnosis.
And I think the hard part is that Kirk wanted to come in here and really show what he could do. He only has 1 hit. He hasn't had a chance to do that, and to take a couple of days off sets him back.
So if we hear something during the game on the Neuenhuis MRI, we'll let you know. Cowgill on first. Ike Davis, the batter. Outside to Davis, who has 2 for 12 with a home run this spring. Chilly day in Florida. Woke up and went outside for coffee this morning. It was 45. And I know the folks back home in the Northeast don't want to hear it.
That's right.
March in Florida. There goes Cowgill. Here is the throw. Not in time. Another stolen base. Oh, he's off the bag. He slid by it. So Cowgill had the bag stolen, but he slid off the base, and he's tagged out.
Well, credit Pasternicki with staying with him. You can see the throw by Bethancourt right on the numbers. But you see Cowgill, the foot in front didn't allow Cowgill to get his hand on the bag, and it made him slide right past the bag. See the left foot? Kind of goes over the top, stays with him. As the foot comes off, applies the tag.
Nice move by Pasternicki. And so there are 2 away.
No, you put that in the memory bank, though. A guy who likes to put his foot in front of the base, make sure you go spikes first. That will not happen again. Head first slide, puts the left foot in front, and kind of blocks Cowgill from the base, stays with him. Nice play by Pasternicki.
Davis with a big swing. And 2-2 to Ike Davis. I see Cowgill talking it over in the dugout. Going to find a home for a base hit. Davis thinking about 2. He's going to make the turn and go into second. Second hit of the inning for the Mets. 2-out double for Ike Davis.
Well, this is always good news when you see with 2 strikes that Ike Davis has kind of shortened up that swing, going to the other side of the diamond and finding a hole between the 2 outfielders. That is a good thing. And if Cowgill could have stayed on the base, that could have been a run for the Mets.
I guess that's going to be a chance you're going to have to take when you're a team that's going to be aggressive and trying to, you know, make runs happen. There's going to be times like that where you are going to run yourself out of an inning, being aggressive. So an RBI opportunity for Marlon Byrd, who's had himself a tremendous start to his Mets spring. And he hits another ball hard. That's a base hit. Davis going to be waived round third. He's going to come in and score. 2-out RBI single for Marlon Byrd. We're all tied at 1.
Well, Mets comes right back with 3 hits in a row. Here, Byrd, nice hitting as he lost this ball kind of off the end of the bat out to Johnson. And Ike, of course, 2 outs on the run. Cuts the corner. A little stumble, but in with the first run.
A lot will bring up Lucas Duda now, who had his breakout game, he hopes, this spring on Saturday with a long home run. And he takes ball 1 from Hudson. Duda was 2 for 3 with a double and a homer Saturday. And considering the start he got off to, which was 0 for 7 with 6 strikeouts, has to feel good for him to get in a little bit of a rhythm now. Little cue shot. Pasternicki has time with Duda running in. The inning is over. The Mets get a run off Tim Hudson in the first. The RBI from Marlon Byrd ties the game at 1. Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium today. Watch over 150 select spring training games live. Plus every regular season game live or on demand at over 250 mobile and connected devices. Visit Mets.com for details. Jeremy Hefner will begin his second inning of work. And Juan Francisco leads it off for Atlanta. Francisco is in the mix at third base. Boy, how weird is it talk about third base and not know who it's going to be for Atlanta. Ronnie, I was down talking to some Braves people earlier, and I said, give me the weirdest thing of camp so far. And one of the responses was Chipper Jones walking around with a fungo. That is something that has definitely got to be strange to see.
Well, you know, the Atlanta Braves do a great job of bringing in some of their former stars into spring training. Francisco up the middle.
And Decker, I think he thought about diving for that when he's so good at it, but a leadoff single.
But I was saying the Braves do a great job of bringing in some of their past stars. They've had Fred McGriff in camp, Chipper, Dale Murphy's going to be in, Gene Garber, Brian Jordan, and I mean, someone I loved as a kid, Ralph Garr is coming in. So they do a nice job of bringing in some older stars to mix with their younger stars.
No, Chipper's an interesting dynamic. Clearly, you lose a lot, you know, production-wise, his aura in the clubhouse. And Met fans certainly happy to see him go, considering what he's done against them over the years. But it does change the dynamic, maybe somehow in a good way, because if you look at the positive for Atlanta, this is, and back-to-back base hits as Johnson finds the seam. It's hard to believe because he's only 23 years old, but you talk to everyone around the Braves. This is becoming Jason Hayward's team. And there's, really, Ronnie, I would think the perfect scenario. He sat back and watched Chipper, and now that Chipper's gone, he's been here a few years. Even at the young age, he's man enough to kind of take over now.
You could almost equate that to Ike Davis, right, with the Mets.
Yes.
He's taking more of a role as a kind of a leader because the Mets have gotten so much younger. And Hayward, I think, when you have a Chipper Jones, you're not going to say anything. You let Chipper Jones lead the way. But now that he's gone, of course, he's going to take a bigger role. And I think that's going to be good for the young man. He is so talented.
And the other dynamic there is Brian McCann. And, he's obviously one of the leaders of that club and a veteran. But, McCann was hurt a lot last year, didn't produce the way he wanted to. And, sometimes when you're not producing the way you do, you're not as outspoken. And Hayward has just taken it to another level from all that I talked to today. He's ready and willing to assume that mantle.
I think that's one of the hardest decisions, I think, for the Atlanta Braves coming up this season is, Brian McCann's going to be a free agent. And do you pay him the 4, 5, 6-year contract to be your everyday catcher? That's going to be a tough decision for them, especially, as you said, Kevin, coming off a difficult year, a year that he was injured. And you're right. It's really hard to lead when you're worried about your production. You're just worried about getting your hits, and it's hard to tell other people what to do.
2-0 to Blake DeWitt, former Dodger and Cub, with 2 on for Atlanta. And it's 3-0. Hey, look, McCann was hurt last year, and I think hurt probably more than he let on. He had a torn labrum, had surgery on it in the offseason, played through it. And the hope is that he'll be back. He just started taking coach's BP, just like that soft toss. Yeah. Not live yet, but they're hoping mid-April for McCann.
Well, listen, when he is right, McCann is a perennial all-star, so they're hoping they get him back 100%.
Tyler Pasternicki is a starting shortstop for a time for this team last year, on deck now.
Well, Pasternicki has one big problem, and his name is Andrelton Simmons, who's playing for the Netherlands, I believe, in the World Baseball Classic, and he just is such a star. They're going to be a star in this league.
Minor leaguers getting their run again. Meanwhile, 2 on, nobody out for the Braves. Top 2 and a full count to Blake DeWitt. Ronnie, talking about the leadership discussion, how Ike Davis has really taken a lot more of that mantle on his shoulders this year, and it's evident. He's always been a big, I don't know the right word, character is probably not it, but voice is probably a better one in that clubhouse. Whether it's joke around or kind of calm guys down, he's got a very calming type demeanor to him. But this year it's been, to me, more noticeably evident that he's gone out of his way. And I asked him earlier this camp if that was on purpose, and he said it was. He said, you know what, there's only so many things that David Wright can do by himself, and I thought that was an interesting comment.
Yeah, no, I think that, Ike is such a gregarious guy. He's such a free spirit. And I think how he handled his lack of success early last year really emboldened him in the clubhouse, because they're like, you know what, you judge people in this game when they're at their worst. You really see their real character. And you know what, Ike Davis didn't change at all. And I think that's was one of his strengths last year.
See if they could turn 2. Turner with the tag on a first, double play. Francisco to third, but now 2 down.
Whenever I see Justin Turner, you know that his dad was a coach, because he is just so well schooled in the game. He knows exactly what to do, the timing of it, applies the tag, and of course completes the double play to maybe give Hefner a chance to get out of this inning.
Hefner's got that sinker going. Who will get some ground balls, does get a big double play there. Now looking to get Pasternicki to get out of the inning.
We didn't talk about it because we were talking about Ike there, but very interesting. You have the veteran, more of a veteran pitcher with the young catcher Darno behind the plate, and called him out, wasn't happy with what he was calling, and they get a ground ball on the next pitch. That was a good job by Hefner.
And he's got 0-2 to Pasternicki. Hefner's going to be 27 next Monday. Got his big break last year. And Ronnie, I think you hit it. Very versatile. Can start, can give you long relief. Had some really nice outings for this team.
He's also a pro's pro. You know, a lot of times those guys get out there in the bullpen and, you know, they're concerned with their role. You're not going to hear that from Jeremy Hefner. He's like, you know what? If you want me to take the ball, I'll take it, and I'm going to give you a great effort out there. And you need those kind of guys, non-complainers.
1-2. Lays off the breaking ball. Hefner from Perkins, Oklahoma. Very cool and calm before the start today to talk about his Oklahoma City Thunder with the big win over the Clippers yesterday. He was a big Thunder fan. Should be the inning. Turner calls, catches inning over. Nice job by Jeremy Hefner after the first two get on. Gets a double play ball, gets out of the frame. We played 1.5, Mets and Braves. All tied up at 1. Wally Backman coaching along the lines of first base today. Our buddy Tom Goodwin has the flu, so rest up, Tom. Hope you're feeling a little bit better. He's Ron Darling. I'm Kevin Burkhardt. So far, we've seen some pretty good pitching. A big home run by Justin Upton. Ike Davis with a big double for the Mets. We're tied at 1 as we go to the bottom of the second. We understand kind of an anomaly in the universe, if you will call it, but there are sunspots that have affected some of the areas watching the game at home that may have made you miss part of our transmission. I know it sounds like something out of Star Wars, but it's actually true. So if you've tuned in, that's what you've missed. You've Colin Cowgill with another hit, Ike Davis with a big double, RBI single, Marlon Byrd, Hefner and Tim Hudson today as we head to the bottom of the second with this much talked about man, Travis d'Arnaud at the plate getting the start today. Head 2-0, and d'Arnaud is off to a very solid beginnings of his Mets career in this spring. Chris Johnson going to take a look. And ball is dropped. Blake DeWitt overran it a tad.
Well, this is Keith Hernandez, our brethren here in the booth's favorite, one-handed all-star. As DeWitt, in these conditions with the sun the way it is and a little bit of wind, that ball's going to jump sometimes on you when it gets close to the glove, and DeWitt not able to make the play.
That's an error on Blake DeWitt. Even though it's a foul ball, you got to make that play. That was a pretty routine play despite the sun. So gives second life to Travis d'Arnaud. And Ronnie, you talked about him working with Hefner, a little bit more experienced pitcher. But what he came over here for was his bat. And, you know, we've seen a good start. 5 of 11, a double, a couple of RBIs. What do you like most about what he can be as an offensive player?
Well, he's got some pop. And I think, you know, the Mets have gone through last season and not getting a lot of power, or really no power, from the catching position. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that next catcher who's going to hit close to 300. He's going to pop the ball out of the ballpark 20 or plus times and drive in some runs. And Travis d'Arnaud is a guy that they think can do that at some point.
Full count to him here. Hudson jams him, but he stays alive.
It's interesting to watch his approach. He's got a big high leg kick and kind of a big swing right now. But, of course, he's a young player. And don't forget, you know, he hurt his knee last year. He was out for 6 months. So he's really just trying to get back into baseball shape.
Hayward battles the sun, but that's going to go out of play.
You know, I think what's interesting is that when you watch a young player taking at bat against a pitcher who has 197 major league wins, I think it's going to pique your attention a little more.
Oh, that'll take your attention. Hudson delivers on the inside corner of the plate. d'Arnaud a strikeout victim.
The reason I say that is that a pitcher like Hudson, he gets you on that seesaw. Soft, 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 and then surprises you with a fastball down the middle. And he catches d'Arnaud looking. You are really in the middle of a great chess game when you're facing Tim Hudson.
Justin Turner now, freshly trimmed beard off the weekend. As he explained to Gary and Keith over the weekend, had to trim down. I guess he was having dinner with the ownership, had to get a little under control. The beard was getting a bit outlandish. It kind of looked like a small yak growing on Justin Turner's face. So Turner cleaned it up, freshly shorn.
It's like that scene in Jeremiah Johnson where he has to he shaves it off there about halfway through.
Beards have been a big thing with this Mets club this spring. Been a lot of them, different shapes and sizes.
Now, there really isn't a rule here
no.
as far as facial hair, but they certainly don't want to encourage any Brian Wilsons at some point.
Yeah. G's got the nicely trimmed one. Last year he had that one hanging down from the chin. And Markham, I told Markham he's got kind of the Indiana Jones beard going.
Okay.
The Harrison Ford. Duda's got one going. It's getting pretty thick.
Dylan G, he can change his looks. He's like the Jackal. I mean, perfect for the witness protection program. You'd never know.
1-2 to turn. The Jackal. Bobby Parnell, you'll see him later in the game, and he's got it. I mean, he put some work into that boy in the offseason.
Well, you know, it's different now. They've got I don't know, they have it in spring training, Kevin, but you know, you see them during the year. They have their own barbers.
Chance for Pasternicki. Oh, nice stop. Couldn't make the second part of the play, though, on the throw. Johnson couldn't scoop the tough hop.
Well, nice play going on a slide up the middle. Makes the play. Kind of rushed the throw. He had a little more time than he thought. And Chris Johnson, who's the third baseman over there at first base, you know that the Braves have in Freddie Freeman, a guy that almost picks that ball 100%.
So they'll give Turner a hit on that play. So a one-out base runner for the Mets. That'll bring up Zach Lutz.
You know, I was saying before, you see the numbers on Lutz last season. I was saying that a lot of the ballparks and the teams have their own barbers. So, you know, it's a lot easier to take care of your beard when you have someone down there with the trimmers who can do all that stuff.
Remember when Keith got his hair done?
Oh, his mustache?
In Miami? He got the whole trim in Miami a couple years ago. Meanwhile, Lutz got a taste of the outfield yesterday for the first time. There was talk when he came to camp that Terry Collins wanted to get he and Justin Turner out in the outfield and expand their roles, and just another opportunity to get their bats in the game. As Hudson misses outside. But, you know, Lutz is right now with Wright at the World Baseball Classic, probably play a lot of third. And Turner with Murphy out with the oblique thing. I should say the intercostal. Yeah. Turner's been playing second this whole time, basically.
You know, when you're a kid, a lot of times you pick out your favorite ball player and you try to hit like him. You know, you have the same kind of stance. When I watch Zach Lutz, it reminds me so much of Jose Bautista, the great power hitter for the Toronto Blue Jays. Almost has the same kind of approach, kind of hunched over, and has that big leg kick and that really strong upper top hand that Bautista has. Bethancourt, of course, has a tremendous arm. Likes to show it. That throw to first.
That is some stat. 14+ years with a winning record. Hudson at 14.
And you know, and that even belittles what he does. So we're talking about 16, 17, 15. I mean, he's perennial 15+ game winner every year. He's had a couple of surgeries, has come back from that. It's a guy that fields his position, good athlete, a threat at the plate, just all around fantastic pitcher.
Well, the last 3 years alone, he's won 49 games with the Braves. And last year, he missed the beginning part of the season recovering from herniated disc surgery. And, you know, I think took him a little time and probably dealt with some issues the whole year with that. But he's just so tough and still put up a terrific year at 16-7 with a 3.62 ERA. Payoff to Lutz outside, ball 4. Mets have something going. 2 on, 1 down here in the home second.
Among there with the elite since 1999, and when you think about it, probably the other 2 pitchers, Mark Mulder and Barry Zito, probably heralded more than Tim Hudson, but he is still performing at such a great pace.
You saw that graphic about Hudson. I looked at all time where he stands win percentage wise, and you were talking about it's not just he's winning games. He's winning 15, 16, 17 games. All time, he's 24th with a 6.54 percentage, so a little over 65%. 23rd on that list, just ahead of him, is Sandy Koufax. Breaking ball missed by Hudson. So that'll give you an idea of where he stands overall in the time frame of what he's done.
He also has great numbers when you talk about if he gets 4 more runs, he never loses. You know, I mean, he just has a tremendous numbers when it comes to that. He's just a winner.
Ruben Tejada with 2 ducks on the pond, 1-0. He takes inside. Remember who the Braves traded to get him to the A's? I think it's worked out pretty well for them.
Who'd they trade?
Juan Cruz, Dan Meyer, and Charles Thomas. It's a pretty good deal.
Well, you know, Hudson was one of those guys, and, you know, a lot of great pitchers have been kind of given that mantle. You know, Pedro Martinez early in his career, too little to be a starting pitcher. Greg Maddux, how long is he going to last? Tim Hudson was under that same kind of look from organizations. They say, you know what, he's a good pitcher, but, you know, he's only 180 pounds. He's not that big, not that tall. He's not going to last that long. Well, they were wrong.
Originally a 6th round pick in '97 by the A's out of Auburn, where he was just as good as a center fielder as a pitcher. 2-1 to Tejada. And worked that inside portion of the play, but missed again. Now 3-1.
Now in this situation, if you have a young pitcher, you'd have a guy that's going to really try to hump up and throw something by Tejada. Just the opposite for Hudson. He's just going to try to keep the ball down, probably going to try to keep it away, and try to get himself a ground ball. Doesn't do either there. A nice swing by Tejada, just a little quick.
Tejada's 2 of 9 this spring and a home run off Steven Strasburg, his first at bat of the spring. Had a little quad cramp, which only kept him out of action for a couple of days.
It's like 1 or 2 pound weights for the players out there.
Little active stretch. Again, a 3-2, runners go. And Tejada down on strikes, so to third is perfect, and Turner's a dead duck. Wow, what a great throw by Christian Bethancourt. Strike him out, throw him out for the Braves. We're through 2 innings, 1-1 game, Mets and Braves. Great throw. Hefner today on field number 6. A little pitcher's fielding practice out in the brisk morning air.
Well, it's like anything else. You know, if you put a lot into it, you're going to get a lot out of it. We can see the toque here. I think that's Robert Carson.
That's nice.
Not that cold. Come on. Dylan G. You try to, if you can, try to do that almost as close to real speed as you can, because that's the only way it's going to help you.
Yeah. Well, now Christian Bethancourt, who's one of the prized Braves prospects, leads off the 3rd inning. 1-1 game, Mets and Braves, and Bethancourt pops it to Bird in right. 1 pitch, 1 away here in the 3rd for Jeremy Hefner and company. Well, we saw Bethancourt. He's known for his defense. We saw that arm at the end of the last inning. He threw out 39% of his base runners last year in the minors. Defense, a specialty for the up-and-coming Braves catcher. Back to the top of the order, Reed Johnson is the batter. Grounded out to second base his first time up. Reed Johnson is, I think if you're describing him to a non-baseball person, just a winning player.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think that Frank Wren, GM for the Braves, and the Braves organization were so happy that he resigned with them, because you're right, a winning player. He's that kind of guy that can play a lot of all the different positions in the outfield. He also, now remember, with Michael Bourne gone, he's a guy that can lead off for you. I mean, that's one thing they've been looking for all spring training, or will be looking for.
Andrelton Simmons will be their leadoff hitter. Ronnie mentioned earlier he's with the Netherlands at the World Baseball Classic, the shortstop. Johnson will be playing. He's a valuable asset off the bench. Takes a strike there. Rafael Montero, we'll see him next. That's fans excited to see Montero as Hefner's 1-2. Jams Johnson. And that'll go into the stands. Remember, we were talking to David Wright last week during the game, and he was talking about these young pitchers, and I said, give me somebody you're excited about. And he cited that guy, Rafael Montero. So seen him out in the field, seen him for a live batting practice. Really excited about what he's shown. So you'll get a chance to see him, Mets fans, next. One-two to Johnson. And he popped him up. Turner makes the play for the second out of the inning. So Jeremy Hefner has allowed the home run to Justin Upton in the first inning. He had allowed a couple singles last inning, but he got a double play ball, did a nice job to get out of that frame, and now trying to get a 1-2-3 inning facing Jason Hayward with 2 down and no one on. There's a strike. Interesting about Hayward. We know about his power, 27 home runs last year. He's got speed, too. And how about this? From the game Friday, Braves played the Astros. He had a home run his first at-bat. And then dropped down a bunt single his next at-bat and said, hey, it's something that I'm working on. Freddie Gonzalez mentioned, it's something he could use, especially because teams play the shift against him sometimes.
Well, that's the big thing, Kevin, is that they just back up the third baseman all the way back almost to the grass. So anytime he's got base hit, with 2 outs, you might want to hit yourself an extra base hit, but he has such great speed, like you said, he could bunt and steal a base.
1-2 here and goes down swinging. Hefner got him with the off speed. Good inning for Jeremy Hefner. He sets the Braves down 1-2-3, 2.5 in the books, tied at 1. Mets and Braves. Complete recap of today's Mets-Braves Grapefruit League matchup, plus up-to-the-minute news, opinion, and exclusive videos straight from camp on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, part of the SNY.TV blog network. Bottom three in Port St. Lucie, Braves and Mets tied at 1. Mets on the board in the first inning. Ike Davis with a double, and he was driven home by Marlon Byrd with a 2-out RBI single. And Den Decker rips one that's going to go foul. Look out in that Braves pen. A little folding chair is dangerous this time of year. Den Decker flew out to center his first at bat. You know, this guy is so tantalizing to watch because of what he brings with his glove. He's outrageously good in the field. We've seen it already a number of times this spring. Robbed a home run last week. And you know, maybe when you look at what his offensive game needs to do to get to the next level, you know, maybe it's just deal with the fact that he doesn't have to be a power guy. And you know, when I say that, when you look at it, Ronnie, you know, last year, I mean, he had 33 extra base hits in AA. He hit 340. Those in 58 games, and then moved up to AAA where he struggled, batted 220, 23 extra base hits. That in 77 games. But he's got home run power. And some feel he's got to find out and learn how to shorten the swing, especially on 2 strikes. Well, that'll work. Leadoff base hit for Den Decker.
Well, it's good to see. 2-1 count. Worked the count in his favor. Got a pitch to hit and a line drive. I know that when he went up to AAA in Buffalo, Wally Backman was his manager, and Wally's comments were, you know, this kid, you can see all the potential there. You can see the potential to be a good major league hitter. But he said he always seemed to be in between in AAA, taking too many fastballs for strikes and getting behind in the count, but worked the count in his favor there.
So Den Decker is a threat to steal. Got 1 stolen base this spring. Colin Cowgill now, and Den Decker goes on first movement. See that arm again, this time from the knees. Not as good. Stolen base, Den Decker. So Bethencourt's thrown the good arm from behind the plate, but Den Decker had a great jump and he steals the bag.
Well, that's what it was, is that Bethencourt can feel that he got off to such a big lead that he didn't even stand up and fire. And in fact, if that was a little lower, it might have clipped Hudson. But good lead, good jump by Den Decker. And the Mets are running the bases today, aren't they?
They really are. I mean, they're certainly in motion. Cowgill got picked off on a steal before. They had a double steal where Turner got thrown out, but trying to be aggressive. That's I think that's what they feel they're going to have to do this year. So Terry Collins trying to set the tone in spring that, hey, this is what we're going to do. Get used to it. Mets just did not steal any bases last year. I mean, with Reyes gone to Miami, he was their one threat. They just, you know, David Wright was their leading guy, and David can still steal bases, but it doesn't do it as much as he used to.
Torres was supposed to be the guy who was supposed to come in and steal 25+ bases, but he couldn't stay on the field.
They're not going to have a stolen base team again, but they could find ways to get them here and there. 0-2 to Cowgill, who singled his last time. Sends B.J. Upton back. And he tracks it all the way, makes the catch, but then Decker will tag up, go to third.
B.J. Upton in center field for the Braves might have the easiest gait you're going to see from a center fielder. He just makes it look so easy and is moving at top speed. This ball looks like at some point it might go over his head. Makes that play look easy. Good at bat by Cowgill to move the runner over.
Ike Davis with a double and a run score at his last at bat. Might have had an RBI had Cowgill not gotten caught stealing. Davis with 3 springs, double and 3 hits this spring, double and a home run.
You know, this is the game within a game here, Kevin, in spring training. You know, Hudson's been out there forever. Ike Davis, you know, with 30+ home runs. But this is a circumstance that Hudson knows is going to happen at some point during this year between these two teams. So this is a game within a game. He's probably saying to himself, how do I get out of this inning without giving up a run?
So if you're Hudson, who undoubtedly is working on some different things, do you change the mindset almost and turn this into that situation where you're just trying to get the out here?
I think no. I think that he's probably using this situation. you know what, let me see if I can get a pop-up or a strikeout here. You know, this is a situation I might have later in the year, might be later in the game. It's, you know, giving my team a chance to win. Let me see if I can really find that little small area to go after Davis.
And that got Davis. So Ike Davis hit by the pitch. He'll go on down to first base.
Well, the two things happen here. One, this clips Ike off that little padding that he has on his right foot. But such a great play by Bethancourt, and then Decker, who was on third base, had no idea that ball hit Davis, was halfway down the line. If it hadn't hit him, they would have had a rundown and got him out of third base.
Well, we've seen Bethancourt moving a lot back there because Hudson's had a few in the dirt. He looks pretty agile. Take a look at that, Ron.
Watch Den Decker. He doesn't know that this hits Ike Davis. Watch him. He thinks it goes by Bethancourt. Good break for him that hit Ike.
Marlon Byrd has the Mets RBI with a 2-out RBI single in the first inning. Runners in the corners, 1 down. So try to get in the kitchen a little bit. You know, Bird's had a real good start this spring, but his comeback really started in the Mexican League. This year, this offseason, he had 318, 16 home runs, 48 RBIs, and 16 home runs and only 220 at-bats.
Well, it's interesting. Here's a guy that had a suspension, had a lost season. You said founded in Mexico, and now here batting cleanup for the Mets in spring training. So you never know what events are going to transpire to put you in a different place.
Check at first. He did not go around. So 1-1 to Bird. Den Decker on third, Ike Davis on first, and Duda on deck. Again, Bethancourt out to corral the breaking ball. Doesn't look like Hudson's had control of that pitch today so far.
That's usually a pitch that'll come later in spring training for a guy like Hudson. You know, he'll work on that sinker first and maybe the good changeup split finger that he throws. And that breaking pitch usually is the last one to come. He's thrown some good ones and some ones way off the plate.
2-1 to Bird. Bird gets good wood on it again. This one deep to right. Hayward retreating, but that'll score a run. So, sac fly for Marlon Byrd, his second RBI of the game, and the Mets take a 2-1 lead.
Well, the anatomy of this inning is great for the Mets. You have a base hit by Den Decker, a stolen base, get him over by Cowgill, hit batter, and now Byrd with a nice at bat going the other way, ensuring that they'll get the run on the sac fly. Nice play by Hayward and the son.
Pretty evident just watching him this spring training that Marlon Byrd is pretty good when he's going to right field. And he's done a nice job with that. He's got both men RBIs. 2-1 New York in front. Lucas Duda the batter with 2 down, and Ike Davis off first. I thought this would be Tim Hudson's last inning. We'll see. No one warming for the Braves right now. As you see Duda, who grounded out to shortstop. I guess maybe Hudson's going to stay in for a little while.
54 pitches, which usually you don't like to see your guy go more than 60, 65 at this point in spring training. Long way to go for Hud.
Got really a month almost left. Hard to believe before opening day. Tim Hudson will be the opening day starter for the Braves this year. Can't quite hit that inside corner against the lefties, and it's 2-1 to Duda. First base as Chris Johnson corrals it, takes care of it, and the inning is over. But the Mets on the board, another Marlon Byrd RBI. They're up 2-1 on the Braves. complex, nice and relaxed, watching the guys practice. It's kind of a neat atmosphere if you've never been down here to bring the family down and get some autographs and things like that. And one of the young rising stars in this Mets system, 22-year-old Rafael Montero, will make his third appearance of the spring.
Well, he's pitched a couple times so far. He's been very impressive in his 4 innings of work. He's given up 3 hits, only a run. But really, it's, you know, when they talk about a live arm, you'd have Montero's picture in the dictionary. He has that kind of stuff.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Hefner got the start from the Mets, pitched very well. 3 innings, just 1 run, 3 hits, struck out 2. They only run the home run to Justin Upton. And Jeremy joins us from the dugout now. Jeremy, it's Kevin and Ron upstairs, and this interview brought to you by Citi. And, you know, for you going out there, and look, how different is it for you now? Just the fact that you did everything for this team last year. You started, you relieved. Sometimes you relieved and started 2 days later. I mean, you kind of did whatever Terry Collins asked of you. So how does that change this spring training for you?
I've always come into spring as a starter, so you know, just coming in here and I came out of the bullpen up until today, and I'm just trying to be versatile and show that I can be in the bullpen or I can be a starter, kind of what I did last year, and knowing what to expect now from my experiences last year.
Montero will get Upton to pop up to right field. The bird, 1 away.
You know, Jeremy, you had an interesting thing happen. You got Blake DeWitt to ground into a double play on a little changeup he threw.
Right.
But right before then, you called the young catcher, Travis Darnell, out. Can you share with us what you were talking about?
Yeah. You know, Travis is a great catcher, real young, and he doesn't know me that well. I've thrown a couple bullpens to him, but he's still getting familiar with the staff, and he doesn't know that I can throw my changeup or really any pitch at any time to any location. And DeWitt just pulled fastball into the bleachers, and that's an automatic changeup for me. So I think he went fastball and then wanted a slider, and then we ended up settling on the changeup.
Nice play, Zach Lutz. Both Uptons retired, 2 down as we talk to Jeremy Hefner. You know, Jeremy, you've changed your repertoire a little bit over the years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know in the instructional league I thought you ditched the slider for the curveball back a couple of years ago, but now it looks like the slider's back a little bit for you. Tell me about what you're doing with your pitch selection these days.
Right, yeah. In college, I threw both, and then when I was drafted by the Padres, they took the slider away from me and just made me throw my curveball, which benefited me. And now I developed a cutter a couple years ago, and it's an okay pitch for me, but it doesn't have the depth to get right-handed batters out. Swing and miss pitch, and so that's kind of where I'm at, and trying to get some depth and some swings and misses on some right-handed batters. And I got BJ to swing today on 2 sliders, so that was good feedback for me.
I really liked your comment, and hopefully Mr. Francisco won't put it in play here.
Yeah.
I liked your comment on, you know, when you're a guy like this young Montero out there, you're just getting it and ripping it and throwing it as hard as you can.
Right.
But when you're a control pitcher like you are, you talked about looking at the speed of the bat, the hitter's letting you know kind of where he's at on your pitches and adjusting accordingly.
Right. Just like with DeWitt, I threw him like 7 fastballs in a row. So once one got in the zone, it was obvious he was going to be on it. And so I knew once he pulled that ball that was a no-brainer for me. And he probably, after the discussion and stuff, he probably knew something off speed, but he had to stay on the fastball 3-2 right there.
As we watch with 2 down and a 1-2 count to Juan Francisco, talking to Jeremy Hefner with a good outing today in the start. 3 innings, just 1 run allowed. Montero trying to work 1-2-3 inning and does it.
Man.
Nasty for Montero, 94 miles an hour. Jeremy, great stuff today, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Jeremy Hefner with a good outing, joining us in a good inning for Rafael Montero. Mets lead the Braves 2-1. Tuesday, back-to-back Big East action. The Scarlet Knights look to upset the ranked Golden Eagles at the rack. And then 9 o'clock, the Pirates tip off against the Friars in Providence. Marquette at Rutgers, Seton Hall at Providence. Coverage begins with City pregame Tuesday at 6:30 only on SNY. We head to the bottom of the fourth inning here at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. Along with Ron Darling, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Glad to have you along today. Travis Darno leads it off against Tim Hudson. Takes a breaking ball, ball one. Darno a strikeout victim. Hudson, after a nice at bat, zipped a fastball on the inside corner of the plate.
Interesting, the veteran Hudson going into the fourth inning here. You don't see that. You haven't seen that very often around baseball. I think in the around the majors we had that Kansas City was 9-0 in spring training so far. Seattle, another up-and-coming team, they think it might be their year. This year is 9-1, so some incredible records so far. I mean, it means nothing unless records like that.
You know, if you're a young team though and you could build momentum off that, you would take it. There's a strike to Darno. It could be the Chicago Blackhawks, who have now played 22 games and gotten a point in every single game in the hockey season, which is amazing.
I got a little problem though. Okay, Kane comes in for the shootout, so he's the last guy to go. He takes about an hour and a half before he comes in on the goalie. I mean, shouldn't there be like a time limit of 5 seconds that you've got to get in on the goal? You can't just dance around like that, can you?
There is a time limit. You're allowed to eat a small Danish for taking a shot on goal.
Come on.
It was a pretty nifty movie. The leg going up in the air with all kinds of confusion. Darno, the shot to left center. Johnson on his horse, won't get it over the head. Travis Darno is going to cruise in for a leadoff double against Hudson here in the fourth.
Well, nice hitting. A little hanging breaking ball here by Hudson. Stays on the inside corner. And nice hitting by Darno. We've seen a lot of good swings by him so far in spring training.
Johnson's working, man. I mean, 63 pitches. Still got a long way to go. So no one warming in the Braves bullpen. So he's feeling quite good in this outing. 2-1 Met lead. Both RBIs off the bat of Marlon Byrd. And now Justin Turner with an RBI opportunity. Turner with a single. His first at bat was caught though on a double steal. Strike him out, throw him out in the second to end the frame.
Never see this in spring training. Usually you have someone up just in case Hudson gets in trouble, but obviously his pitch limit a lot larger than most pitchers at this point in the year. 64 already.
Let me ask you a question as Turner takes inside. I mean, there's so much time between now and opening day because spring training is extra long with the World Baseball Classic. Is there any way that Hudson stretches himself out and then kind of, I don't want to say chills out, but eases up the last couple weeks leading opening? Does that happen?
I've never heard of that. I think that you always try to build up to a crescendo where you're ready for April. I mean, he's going to be pitching opening day. I think for them is in Atlanta against the Philadelphia Phillies. You want to be your last out, and you want it to be 100 pitches, and you want to be at the top of your game and going. So this is unusual to throw this many pitches early in spring.
He's at 66 now and cruising right along. 2-1 to Turner, though, with Darno off second.
Well, for the Mets, you probably can't have a better hitter in the box in this situation. Situational hitting, guy on second. You said it was an RBI situation, but also a situation like Kyle Gill in the prior inning to get the runner over. And of course, we know Justin Turner, and for you folks at home who don't know, does such a good job of going the other way.
293 with runners in scoring position last year for Turner with 13 RBIs. Sitting 2-2. Pasternicki on the run. The Turner advances Darno to third, so productive out. One down in the fourth.
we always talk about hitting the ball the other way to advance the runner, but the runner at second base has got to read two things. If the ball is the other way to advance, but also the speed and how hard it's hit. And Turner did not hit that very hard. The pass from Nicky, good read by d'Arnaud.
And d'Arnaud also runs pretty well for a catcher. He's not a slug-footed catcher, which is, a lot of the guys that play the position are.
He hasn't caught 1,000 games yet.
Well, give it time. Zach Lutz is the batter. Walked his first at bat against Hudson. Infield coming in now, trying to prevent the run. Big swing by Lutz.
Did you hear Terry Collins here on the audio? Because come on, Zach, go the other way, up the middle. Doesn't want to see that big swing here.
What he needs to do here is put one in the air, even though there are good arms everywhere in that Brave outfield. Well, finally going to get some warm-up action in the Braves bullpen. Luis Avilan, who was outstanding for Freddie Gonzalez last year, will be the next man up.
Just another lefty who gets everyone out in that bullpen. Go along with Johnny Venters.
Eric
and O'Flaherty.
Lutz in an 0-2 hole. Checky did not go around. Bethencourt pretty good behind that dish, huh?
Boy, it's pretty nice when you have a young catcher like that, and as a veteran pitcher, 0-2 count, I can bounce a breaking ball, he's going to keep it in front.
Hudson's 1-2. To get him to go fishing.
Well, he got 0-2. He had two breaking balls, both in the dirt, trying to get Lutz to go after it. Let's see if Hudson tries to surprise him inside with a fastball. Blowing on that hand. You don't see that very often in Florida. Just a little chilly here. Sunny but chilly. Going back to the breaking ball.
Comes inside with it, misses. Lutz works it to 3-2 after getting behind early.
Only one sign with the runner on third. Now the time to try to surprise him with a fastball.
Jammed him. Runner will have to stay as Pastor Nicky makes the play. And Lutz retired. d'Arnaud has to stay at third.
Everything soft till he got 3-2, and then the fastball in broke the bat of Lutz. It was interesting to hear the voice of Tim Tuffle saying no, no, no over and over as the third base coach, letting d'Arnaud know to stay on third base.
So now it's up to Ruben Tejada. The Mets try not to waste a leadoff double by Travis d'Arnaud. That's the at-bat you need, though. You need Lutz to put that in the air and get that run home. And I'll take a 2-out hit from Tejada. Just tuned in, Marlon Byrd with RBI single and a sac fly for the Mets runs. Justin Upton with a home run for the Braves run. 2-1 bottom 4. Not sure what that was in the crowd. Someone yelling loudly.
Something primal down there.
d'Arnaud off at third with that leadoff double. Hudson at 75 pitches. He's used that fastball on the inside corner to righties well today.
Home plate umpire Sean Barber has had a good pitcher strike zone so far early in this game.
And it's 1-2 to Tejada. Johnson trying to finish a strong spring start. Put 4 innings in the books. And Strand a leadoff double. 1-2 to the Mets shortstop. Forget sometimes that Tejada is only 23 years old. And he's got so much in front of him. Had his best career year last year, 289, 26 doubles, and had a lot of these good at bats where he was patient and worked and foul pitches off. Pasternicki cuts that one off, and Johnson stays on the bag with a good stretch. So the Mets leave d'Arnaud after the leadoff double. We played 4 in Port St. Lucie, 2-1 New York. Little bike riding on the boardwalk here in Florida on the East Coast. Little rollerblades. When's the last time you rollerbladed?
That's funny.
Good exercise, though, getting some rays in, although.
Look at that outfit. Dropping the plaid pants with the yellow shirt.
That is a confident man. That's a confident man. Rafael Montero in his second inning of work. The 22-year-old looked sharp last inning. We were talking to Jeremy Hefner while I was on the mound, but a 1-2-3 inning. He struck out Juan Francisco. Let's get a look at him here facing Chris Johnson in the 5th. First pitch swinging. Den Decker. Always seems like Den Decker's ready to dive. Couldn't get there, though, so a leadoff single against Montero. Johnson's 2 for 2. Here are the top 8 prospects for the Mets. This is according to MLB.com. d'Arnaud and Wheeler are the top 10 in the game of baseball. And Syndergaard came over in the d'Arnaud trade as well. Brandon Nimmo played in Brooklyn in the Penn League last year. Familia, Gavin Cecchini, a shortstop. A little lower on that list. And then Montero on there as well. As Blake DeWitt bats. DeWitt grounded into a 4-4-3 double play, his first at bat. That against Jeremy Hefner. Ron, if you're looking at Montero, if you want to look at a number, you know, sometimes it's hard to judge numbers in the minor leagues, ballparks, leagues, competition, all that type of thing. Here's one, though, for Montero that you just don't see at his level. Playing between Savannah and St. Lucie last year, which is South Atlantic League and then A-ball. His numbers, strikeouts, 110, walks, 19.
Well, you make a good point, Kevin. That is a real big number. Walks for young pitchers, because there's two things there. with walks. It's either they have bad control, so they haven't really harnessed all their great talents, or they're a little tentative to throw the ball in the strike zone. And obviously Montero is neither. And that's a good sign.
Signed a little bit older by the Mets. He was signed at age 20. A lot of the Dominican signings usually see 16, 17, but a little bit older of a guy, a little bit more mature. His whip last year was .94. That was second in the minors. Outstanding number. This is outside with the heat, and it's now gone full to Blake DeWitt. I mean, you're talking that's less than a runner on base per inning, which is a very good number.
Well, Jeremy Hefner was talking about he faced Blake DeWitt before on a 3-2 count. He was able to throw a changeup. Montero, you're probably going to get a fastball 3-2.
There goes the runner. DeWitt punches one to left. Duda sprinting, can't get it, goes by him. Rolls into the pen. Johnson didn't get up from the slide. He's going to round third, try and score. Here comes the relay from Tejada. Darno makes the tag. He's out at home. Travis d'Arnaud applied the tag, and Chris Johnson out at home. Duda to Tejada to d'Arnaud.
Well, Duda doesn't have the speed to catch up to this, but he showed good hustle after the ball got by him. And the key here is that he hits the cutoff man, Tejada, who has an outstanding strong arm, and makes the throw. And you can see that d'Arnaud did give a place for Johnson to slide, but then took it away as soon as he had the baseball.
So DeWitt will get a double and then go to third on the throw. And yeah, that is interesting, especially coming out last week that the Mets have told d'Arnaud, hey, don't block the plate. He gave up the plate, but the throw came in plenty of time from Tejada, so he just slid over and had the easy play on Johnson. But nonetheless, good test for the young catcher.
The difficult part there is that, you know, if you are going to block the plate like that, and if, you know, if this was in a spring training game, of course, and we've heard a lot of comments, you know, Mike Matheny, Bruce Bochy, and others.
It's going to be a base hit. That will score a run. Pasternicki with an RBI ties the game at 2 as DeWitt comes home to score.
About banning, you know, the bowling over the catcher. I think the one thing that the base runners will tell you is that if the catcher blocks the plate like this, what am I supposed to do? There's no way for me to go. So when you go down to both knees like that, we saw Posey do that 2 seasons ago, put yourself in a vulnerable position if you're the catcher. But he had the ball so far ahead of time. But in the regular season, Chris Johnson probably isn't going to slide to the outside there. He's going to probably bowl him over, and that's he was in a little vulnerable position.
Christian Bethencourt, the batter, as the Braves have tied the game up 1 out. What's he supposed to do then in that particular instance? Where do you want him if the Mets don't want him blocking the plate, considering what you just said about, you know, putting himself in that position? What is he supposed to do on that play?
Well, that's an easy play because, you know, he had the ball so early. He can really just do a swipe tag. He can just reach down there and kind of really give with the runner as he's sliding past the bag, especially in spring training. I think occasionally you'll see someone bowled over, but it's bad form to hit a catcher or even to take someone out viciously at second base on a double play. You just don't do it. But so he could have really just, you know, kind of cradled the ball and with the runner sliding by, kind of just grazed him as he went by. But he decided to block the plate. But well run there by the Mets. You know, you do all the drills in spring training to hit the cutoff man and get the runner at home, and that was as perfect as you can do it.
If you start at the earlier part of that play, there's been so much discussion about Lucas Duda and his offense and his stance and his offense and getting going and things like that. You know, the reason why there's so much talk about his offense because the Mets need Lucas to hit so his defense isn't a factor. And, you know, he is, I think, clearly more comfortable in left field this year. But I think the thing to take note of Lucas in left is last year in right, because he wasn't as comfortable, you know, Tommy Goodwin pushed him as Pasternicki goes, swing and a miss. d'Arnaud's throw in the hop, scoop. Turner held on in the house. Oh, what a scoop by Justin Turner at second base as Pasternicki gunned down.
Well, tough pitch here, a little slider away, and you got the runner, the hitter coming across the plate, and still d'Arnaud able to one hop it there to Justin Turner. We've seen him the seasons he's been with the Mets. He stays in there. He's a gritty player. makes the pickup on the one hop and applies the tag at the same time.
Perfect. Not easy to stay in there with that foot coming in your face, but Turner did that. Darno got off. Good throw despite the pitch, and there are 2 down.
You know, Kevin, you were mentioning that he might be more comfortable in left field, but you know, Lucas Duda just does not have the speed to cover enough areas. So that play down the left field line really is a play that he's going to have to play on one hop as a hit, and not really take a chance like that. And the result is that if you're going to let a lot of hits drop in front of you, then you're going to have to really produce at the plate, like you said. And I'm not saying produce like, you know, produce with home runs and runs batted in. And, you know, you can't fault a guy if he doesn't have enough speed to get to that baseball, but you can kind of judge his judgments on how do you play that ball. Do you try to? He wasn't even close to getting a dive on that ball, so you have to play it on one hop.
Well, you know, I was mentioning that Tommy Goodwin, the outfield coach, made Duda play more shallow last year and had him going back on balls. This year it's a little different at left. Playing him back more and having him come up on balls, just trying to keep it simple. Davis makes the catch as Montero gets through the inning. But the Braves do tie it up. The RBI from Pasternicki. We're all square at 2, middle of 5. Today's Mets-Braves Grapefruit League matchup, plus bring you live reports on the Mets and Yanks straight from camp. Loudmouth, weeknights at 6, only on SNY. Tim Hudson threw 4 good innings and now getting the running in the outfield. Full bore for Hudson today.
Well, we were watching him before the game, and you know that at the spring training game, Hudson was signing autographs before he warmed up. So pretty cool customer. And this young left-hander was outstanding for the Braves last year. 31 appearances, ERA at 2. Another left-hander with O'Flaherty and Venters, tough in that bullpen for the Braves.
2-2 game, home 5th inning here in Port St. Lucie, and Dan Decker shows bunts. You know, Avilan, just to give you an idea of how he came on the scene. He was promoted to AAA Gwinnett last year, didn't make an appearance, got immediately then called up to the major leagues in July, where he just flat out dominant. I mean, you know, and yeah, you know, Ronnie, you talked about it, you know, with Venters, who did struggle a little bit here and at times, not, you know, especially from what you saw the year before, and O'Flaherty, you know, he was kind of the third guy, didn't get as much praise because he wasn't pitching most of the time as deep in games. But man, I mean, what a great find for the Braves, and he'll be in that bullpen again. Meanwhile, with Den Decker up, playing today again with the injury to Kirk Neuenhuis yesterday. Neuenhuis back from the MRI tube, and the good news is no ligament damage. It is, Kirk told reporters, it was a bone bruise. And you think two things. Yeah, bone bruise where you thought of Carlos Beltran, which just hindered him completely for a long time. But Kirk told reporters maybe a couple days, maybe a week. That's a lot better than the alternative. Some good news on the Nieuwenhuis front.
Well, when you're trying to win a job, that bone bruise goes away a lot quicker.
We're happy for Kirk that it's not anything more serious. Cue shot to Francisco. And Dendecker retired, one down. Here's Colin Cowgill, 1 for 2, a single his first time up against Hudson, and then was caught stealing, and then flew out to center his last at bat. Darius Familia is warming for the Mets. We'll see him next. We're showing Hudson running for the Braves and talking a little bit about this Braves team and this rotation. And we got Hudson and Medlin at the top. Medlin was outstanding last year. Got Minor and Mahalam. Probably Julio Teheran is the 5th starter. What you're forgetting, at least the non-Braves fan, is that Brandon Beachy is waiting in the wings. He was
Tommy John, right? Yeah, Tommy John surgery. So he's going to, I think he had it in the middle of the summer last year. So that's usually a year before you're back, a year plus.
They're hoping they get him back, and he had a 2 ERA in 13 starts last year. And the other factor here with the Braves, all these moves, and especially the moves for the Uptons, which has gotten all the press. They traded Tommy Hanson this offseason, and he goes to the Angels for Jordan Walden, one-time closer for the Angels, who just adds another hard-throwing arm. He'll be the 5th inning reliever. Freddie Gonzalez. I've got so many hard throwers out there.
Well, the two things I look at in that, one thing I look at in the rotation is you see this pitch to Cowgill off the end of the bat and catches Bethencourt. Is that Mike Minor's first 15 starts last year, his ERA was in the mid-5s. His last 15, it was in 2s. So he got better as a young pitcher as the season went on. That's a good sign. And I was really shocked. I knew R.A. Dickey would win the Cy Young, but I was shocked that Kimbrel finished. But I think he finished 5th. But I was shocked that he finished that low because he had a historical season.
Cowgill chases one. He's down on strikes. Second out. I don't know how you can do better than Craig Kimbrel as a reliever. I mean, take a look at this last pitch to Cowgill.
He struck out fastball away, running away from Avilan. Struck out over half the batters he faced. I mean, come on already. I mean, when you see best rate, I mean, 7 runs allowed all season long. I mean, I was lucky enough to play with with one of the great closers of all time, Dennis Eckersley, and those are the kind of numbers he would routinely put up. But he would win Cy Youngs and most valuable players.
I mean, if you talk about strikeout to walk ratio, 3-to-1 is really good, right? You'll take 3-to-1, 4-to-1, outstanding. He had 116 strikeouts and 14 walks. You'll take 2-to-1 in that category. His numbers across the board were just absurd. I mean, you couldn't touch him last year. He's on the World Baseball Classic, Team USA.
To say earlier that R.A. Dickey is going to start the first game.
John Shorey announced that R.A. Dickey starts on Friday. Meanwhile, Ike Davis in an 0-2 hole as Avilan looking to make quick work of the Mets in the 5th. And he does so. 2 strikeouts for Avilan. Plows through the Mets. We played 5 in Port St. Lucie. 2-2 Mets and Braves. Youth baseball and softball leagues with no place to play. So this year, SNY reaching out, the SNY Play Bowl Award, offering 6 $5,000 grants to local leagues in need of help. To apply, visit facebook.com/SNY today. Back at Tradition Field, we start the 6th, 2-2 Mets and Braves, and Gioris Familia will take the mound. Third pitcher for the Mets today.
You know, Kevin, this is a young man that I think that the entire organization and staff is just waiting for him to turn the corner. Used primarily maybe thinking of him as a reliever, as an opportunity because of his great stuff, great arm, great slider, to have a chance to pitch in this league for a long time. Control has been his only issue.
Well, we know he can throw hard. I mean, he was up to 98, 99 on the gun out of the pen for the Mets last year when he got that September call-up. Reed Johnson leads it off for Atlanta in the top of the 6th. And he takes strike one from Familia, 93 on the gun.
I like him there. You know, you were saying 98, 99. I like when he's free and easy, doesn't overthrow, and throws strikes because his stuff is good enough. He gets more movement when he doesn't try to overthrow also.
Darren Gorski warming up for the Mets. The left-hander out of Kutztown University will be next. Well, Familia had a bunch of starts in AAA, but Dan Carpenter for the Braves, he averaged less than 5 innings per start. So it's been pretty clear that the Mets see him as a relieving option. And I guess the question would be, if he goes down, he's got Johnson in a 0-2 hole. Johnson lays off. If he does go down to AAA to start the year, do you keep him in that starting role just to get the extra work, or do you actually get him in the mindset of being a reliever?
You know, Hudson, look at him still working there. I think, Kevin, is that, you know, if you're an organization, what do you need? They have starting pitching. They've got extra starting pitching. So, you know, guys like Hefner who started today, get him in a role if he has to go down in Vegas, and put him in that bullpen and make him the closer if you want to. Give him responsibility to really, you know, turn it up a notch. Now, he got ahead 0-2. Kind of 2 bad slide. No, I shouldn't say. The 0-2 slider was a good slider. That one was not.
Johnson to left. Duden tracking. And he makes the catch.
You know, it's interesting when you watch Familia. I was talking to Joe McIlvain, one of the scouts for the Mariners, the old scout with the Mets. Watch how he lands on a stiff front leg, kind of recoils, and then that back leg doesn't really push through. You want to have a lot more push, because what you're trying to do is take all that inertia off of your arm, off of your shoulder, off of your elbow by using your lower half. And Familia is so young and has such a great arm that he doesn't have to do it. How that works in the long run, we'll have to see.
Jason Hayward's third at bat. He's 0 for 2. Fly out to right. Struck out his last time. Let me ask you, what happened to the days of Tom Seaver really pushing off that rubber, getting the dirt on the knee? I mean, you know, not just Familia, but I think you see a lot more pitchers with just that today that don't use the lower half of the body as much as, I don't know, I feel like maybe pitchers used to.
It used to be the drop and drive was what they taught, Kevin. And I think it's all around baseball. It's on the offensive side too, right? When you watch hitters, very few use their legs. They're kind of waist up hitters. You know, they're a lot stronger. There's Craig Swan. He was that was Tom Seaver there, sorry. Craig Swan was a drop and drive guy. Jerry Kuzman, Nolan Ryan. There's a reason they had success over a long period of time.
Chop to first. Ike Davis has the play, and there are 2 outs for Familia here in the 6th.
That's the one thing, Kevin, that I had to learn was when I first came out of college. I probably threw the same as Familia threw. Real stiff front leg, a lot of shock to the system every time I threw the baseball, and I worked real hard to land on a kind of a soft front leg where it was bent, where you didn't take all of that shock back into your arm. You really took it into your legs and your body, and it made the biggest difference. The reason that, you know, I didn't also with my parents' DNA, I didn't get injured too much.
Justin Upton, who has a home run His second of the spring for the Braves in this game. Here's that in the first inning.
Well, they'll tell you that certain sound comes off the bat of certain hitters. Justin Upton, certainly one of those guys.
That was really the only mistake by Jeremy Hefner that was started when good 3 innings for the Mets. Allowed that 1 run. Familia misses high with the heat. 2-0 to Upton. And then we saw Rafael Montero came on to pitch 2 innings. He allowed a run on 3 hits. Now it's Familia.
It's going to be interesting to see Justin and his brother, older brother BJ, on deck. How they, the competition between brothers, right, during the whole season. Sure, they'll keep each other pedal to the metal.
Well, they say there has been a real camaraderie not only with the Upton brothers but with Hayward in right field, and the 3 have been inseparable in some ways. Hayward has taken on the leadership role even at 23 years old, and Freddie Gonzalez is playing the outfield this spring together and giving them off together to develop that chemistry and that bond even more. And I think that in its own right is a neat dynamic. And 94 miles an hour from Familia. There's a look at the brothers.
Well, with baseball trying to get back in the inner cities and the dearth of great African-American players in the major leagues, I think it's just fantastic to see an outfield like Atlanta has. It's a real inspiration to other kids who are trying to decide at a young age what sport they want to play.
Very cool. 2-2 to Upton in the dirt. And I think the one thing about this outfield is, you look at it, it's dynamic. It's, the defense out there should be terrific. All the arms are very, very good. How about the speed? I mean, every guy out there can flat out steal. I mean, Hayward and Justin Upton could give you over 20, and BJ could give you over 30 steals. That is some weapon. It'll be a payoff to Justin Upton. Fastball inside. 99 on the gun by Familia, but he issues the 2-out walk to Upton. And now B.J. Upton, who's got a strikeout and a ground out to third in his appearances today. B.J. will likely slot into the 4-hole for this Braves batting order when things count. Braves are missing in the lineup today. Well, they're missing a few guys, obviously, but Freddie Freeman will be a big presence in the middle of that order. And for all that's talked about these new acquisitions, he might be one of the best young players in the game.
Well, I think Freddie Freeman, to me, when I watch him hit, he's the future batting champion, I think, in the National League. He's a guy who's going to ring out one of those 340 seasons.
Where is Familia in his progress as far as holding runners is concerned, and is that tougher for a young power pitcher?
Yeah, it's tougher, but he does have a kind of a slide step to the plate, so he is not as bad as you'll see some younger pitchers. He's got a decent move over there.
Justin Upton stole 18 bases last year. He's on first. BJ at the plate now stole 31.
BJ Upton, I've seen him when he's at his best, and he looks like the best player on the planet. He also has those streaks where he'll struggle, especially striking out. But if he ever puts it all together, scary.
Familia pops him up. It's Jen Decker makes the call and the catch, and the inning is over. Good inning of work for Teoris Familia. Middle of the 6th. Mets and Braves all tied at 2. Spring training in Port St. Lucie rolling on. We see some good shots of what's going on. Of course, we're well into games and less than a month to go for opening day now, is getting a little bit closer. The game this afternoon, Mets and Braves 2-2, bottom 6. David Carpenter, the new pitcher, the third of the day for Atlanta.
Well, very unusual. David Carpenter traded with manager John Farrell from Toronto Blue Jays to the Red Sox, where he was put on waivers and claimed by the Braves. So someday he'll be able to say that he was traded with a manager.
Good trivia question. Marlon Byrd will lead it off. He's got both Met RBIs today, RBI single and then an RBI sac fly in the third. The single scored Ike Davis, who doubled, and Byrd aggressive on the first pitch to right, and he's going to fly out one down. Joined now by Ike down from the Mets dugout. It's Kevin and Ronnie upstairs. Ike,
what's happening, boys?
Good to see you today. And but I tell you, it seems like here you are. You're playing a bunch of spring training games. You're getting in the groove. You've got a home run and a double, and you've got about 700 more spring games to play. Do you have to pace yourself here a little?
A little bit. I mean, I'm glad though, because I want to get a little more ABs than last season, and hopefully I can get off a little better than last year.
How much better do you feel, just in terms of the ankle being free, no valley fever, any of that, just being yourself and go about the spring and play?
Oh, it's been fantastic so far. Just not worrying about what's going to happen. Am I going to have to sit out like months of the season? The ankle feels great, and it's the first time in a while that it's just me up there, and if I stink, it's me, so it's a good thing.
I was really impressed with your first at bat, Ike, to have 2 strikes and get a pretty tough pitch down and going the other way.
Yeah, I stayed on it really well. I don't know how I hit it to left field, but it was a change-up middle in, and I stayed on it and drove it that way.
How much do you use as a measuring stick when you face, Tim Hudson here in early March? I mean, is that helpful to you, just seeing kind of where you are against a guy like that?
For sure. I mean, especially right now, all his pitches look a little more sharp than they do when you're in the middle of the season. But it's good, just train your eyes to see different pitchers like he does a really good cut fastball, and to just be able to pick it up and see it, so when you get in the season you can lay off the one that almost hit me in the hip that I swung at today.
He does have that late breaking slider every once in a while. Like, what do you work on in spring training? You're so good at save your infielders time and again. Errors on balls in the dirt. How do you work on it in spring training? It's hard to replicate what happens in a game.
It really is. But me and Tuff, he gets a bucket and he goes to each position, and he'll hit laser beams with the fungo at me. That gets you just the ball speed of how hard these guys throw it at me. And it's different because different surfaces everywhere you play. If the dirt's hard, it's going to pop up. If it's soft, it's going to stay down. Depending on what grass, it's going to skip, or if it's thick grass, it's going to slow up and jump up. So you really got to know your field and what the ball's going to do.
Ike, we were talking earlier in the game. We had a discussion about leadership and taking guys behind closed doors, or making some jokes when it's needed, as Duda goes down on strike. So the second out for the Mets in the 6th. And you told me earlier in the spring that you have been more of a role there on purpose to take some of the load off David Wright's shoulders. But I mean, what does that entail for you though? Like, where is the balance, and what how do you try and balance that and kind of be fun when you need it, or be the guy to kind of calm people down when you need it? How do you balance that out?
Well, playing baseball in New York, there's definitely a lot of pressure, and people can get tense, and I pride myself in being somewhat relaxed and enjoying the ride. And so I just, I see someone uptight, you just go over there and make sure they feel all right, and just kind of talk them up a little bit and get them to settle down. And you got to have people on the team, no matter who it is, that when you're tense, hopefully when I'm tense, I have someone come up to me and crack some jokes and make me feel a little better, and hopefully that translates on the field.
Don't you think it's important, Ike? Sometimes it's just good to be a good friend.
Exactly.
When times get tough.
You need teammates as friends. We're together for so long that you really got to get to know each other and find the ways that make people thrive out in the field and keep them loose. And if they need to get yelled at, then someone needs to yell at them. But I usually don't do the yelling. So.
How's the fishing been down here?
I actually haven't gone. I'm going to go tomorrow on the day off. Me and Reese are going to fish all day, make up for the lost time.
You haven't gone. Well, usually you're the guy that sits on the bucket and it just hangs out by the creek. Well, that really not once.
It's been weird. We've had a lot of FIFA tournaments going on lately at my house, so that's what we've been up to. It's we've been working hard on the field and saving energy, not walking around and throwing 1,000 times. So. We've been kind of relaxing and trying to recruit for the next day.
It's pretty funny. I forget how young you guys are sometimes. My son loves that FIFA thing, got me playing, and crushes me routinely.
It's tough. You got to get a good. We play 2-on-2, so you got to get a good partner and you got to practice. It's just like baseball.
Who's your partner?
I got a couple of them. I'm kind of a. I'm not monogamous. So I kind of skip around. Whoever's there is usually my partner, but we do pretty good.
Does that, Ronnie was just talking about, you need a friend sometimes. You're doing the FIFA, you go out fishing, you have the Mets Sunday night bowling. How much does that help? I mean, how much does it help, and what are those nights like last night when you guys all go out to go bowling and make it a team excursion?
Well, the thing is, it's for the guys that I've played with for 4 years now, it's not the biggest help. We hang out anyway, so it really helps with the guys that are new this year and really get to know them off the field and get to laugh with them and do something else besides be at the field. And because everyone's got families down here, everyone's got wives, kids, they're in different locations, so it's kind of hard to meet up off the field. So that's a good area to kind of all get together and just have some fun.
I heard sources said that the bowling hawk Burdak came in and dominated last night.
Yeah, that was kind of unfair. We got beat by like 200 pins. But, next week we're going to come back strong. And I hired a hot hand, and we're going to put up some more pins.
I love it, a ringer.
Yeah. Bob Garrett.
Thanks for joining us, Ike. We'll see you soon. Ike Davis. Mets are down here in the 6th, tied at 2. Wholesale line changes for the Mets. We go to the 7th in a 2-2 game with the Braves. New catcher is Anthony Recker. Takes over for Travis d'Arnaud. Brandon Hicks at first. We just had Ike Davis on the microphone. Wilmer Flores now at second. Wilfredo Tovar at shortstop. At third base, Brian Bixler. Mike Baxter comes into the game. He's in right field replacing Marlon Byrd. And the new pitcher, left-hander from Kutztown University, Darren Gorski.
Well played, Kevin, with the changes. Darren Gorski, of course, see his record last year as he moved up quickly in this Mets farm system down to the left-hander.
You never know as Juan Francisco leads it off. He's got 1 for 2 with a single this game. spring training, I didn't know if our director Bill Webb would throw me a loop. I kind of expected one of the shots to cut to like Krusty the Clown or something like that. You know, Webby always trying to keep us on our toes. Francisco keeps the folks in the camera well on their toes. Hard foul ball. As Braves have some warm-up action, David Hale. Boy, it's fun and refreshing talking to Ike Davis, isn't it? I mean, we were talking earlier in the game about his leadership and his personality, and he said it, you know, I'm not the guy to do the yelling, but can't you see just from that interview why he comes across so well in the clubhouse?
Well, you know, there's a few guys that you, and I certainly wouldn't pretend to know Ike off the field, but there's certain guys you get a feel for that you say, boy, you know what, he would have been a good teammate, a good guy to play with. And I've said this a couple times before. I don't know if there's another personality in that clubhouse who could have gone through the travails that he did in the first part of the season and still keep his head up, still stay in the game, still play hard on the defensive end, and then it all came around for him, and he had just an outstanding last 4 months of the season. So, you know, that really showed me something.
First chance for Brandon Hicks at first, and Francisco is retired for first out. New York Mets baseball on SNY, brought to you by Geico. Also by Ford. Visit your Tri-State Ford dealer today for great values. Ford, go further. And by Delta. Chris Johnson, his third at-bat for the Braves. He's 2 for 2, couple of singles. Johnson, it's kind of the forgotten man on the Justin Upton trade, that 7-player trade. He came over with Upton from Arizona, you know, because the Braves sent over Martin Prado, who they had assumed until that point would play third in the retirement of Chipper Jones. Well, he's not a throw-in. I mean, he had, 24 total home runs last year? No, 281. I have 15 home runs last year. But a guy that hits with a good average can give you some home runs. Between he and Francisco at third, they've got home run potential at the hot corner.
Well, I think they have the same player, although they bat from different sides. Is that they both have pop. They're both kind of free swingers, although I think Johnson will hit for a higher average. And they're both challenged a little bit at this point in their career defensively. But Francisco started off challenged last year. They worked very hard with him. He worked hard early with Terry Pendleton, who's one of the best defensive third basemen I've ever seen, and got better. And I'm sure the same thing is going to happen for Johnson.
Korski misses inside. 1-2 as he deals to Chris Johnson in the 7th. Well, this Atlanta Brave team, you know, you got to give some credit, or a lot of credit, to Freddie Gonzalez, because think about 2 years ago where the Braves, you know, they had that tough finish. You know, they led the wild card by 9.5 with 30 games to play. They collapsed down the stretch. They didn't make the playoffs. And the offseason last year, they said, hey, it's motivational. We're going to use it to our advantage. They did. They got back and won the wild card, you know, gave a threat to the Nationals for a long time, and won 94 games. And really came back and showed tremendous character and obviously some great stories. None better than Chris Medlin, coming off Tommy John surgery, who initially the Braves were trying to find a spot for, and then they put him in the rotation, and he was ridiculous the rest of the way.
That one loss in relief, so it shows you what he was, how important he was for that team as a starter. And of course, you know, what's interesting is that they had a difficult choice in the wild card game. Do you go with the veteran Hudson, who's been around the block a couple of times in a big game, or you go with Medlin? And save for a couple of errors by the Braves defense, Medlin pitched very well. So it was a you know, it's tough when you win 94 games and you're one and done, but that's how today's game is with the extra wild card.
Look at what Medlin did, and make no mistake, he was dominant in just about every one of those outings. It wasn't like the Braves were scoring 7-8 runs a game for him. He was so good. Johnson hits this one a ton to left field. Duda looks at it. That's gone. Home run for Chris Johnson. A long shot to put the Braves in front of the Mets 3-2.
Well, you talked about having the Upton brothers and Hayward on every game together and taking the days off together. Both Chris Johnson here and Juan Francisco, who are thriving for that third base job, are battling each other within a game. And Johnson with a step up here with a long home run.
So the Johnson home run gives the Braves the lead as Gorski gives it up. Now it's Blake DeWitt who's got 1 for 2 with a double and a run score. Gorski getting a look as a lefty specialist. He's been very effective against lefties. In fact, last year held left-handers to a .219 clip.
Well, I think it's important if you're a left-handed specialist, Kevin, to get those left-handers out, of course. But managers find you very valuable if you can give them maybe a couple innings. And the only time you can do that is if you can get right-handers out. And Chris Johnson got Gorski there.
There's a strike. On that note, the lefty specialist note, Pedro Feliciano, who had a scare with some tests, revealed some heart issues. Well, he's okay. He's back to pitching. Through a session on the side yesterday. He's going to pitch in a B game in Jupiter tomorrow after a rare heart condition, but he's been cleared to pitch. He's going to wear a heart monitor, but he's okay. He's going to be pitching tomorrow, and that's good news for Pedro and good news for the Mets, because if he's healthy and throwing okay, he is a guy that can get left-handers out.
Well, Sean Markham, I think, pitching that game also, that B game. So a couple of veterans going down to Jupiter for that 11 o'clock Wago.
2-2 to DeWitt, lays off. LaTroy Hawkins also, he hasn't pitched in the spring yet. That's interesting, right? You got the 40-year-old veteran who hasn't pitched in a game yet. Has said, I know what it takes for me to get ready, and we'll start tomorrow. You got to love it.
It's hard to even have the blood flowing by 11 o'clock, but we'll see for the veterans. They'll have to get it going.
Payoff, and it catches the corner, strike 3. Sikorsky strikes out DeWitt, his first K. 2 down.
Well, we've seen him have good control of that fastball, and I said it before, the home plate umpires had a very nice strike zone for the pitchers this afternoon.
Pasternicki's 1 for 2 with an RBI single his last time up. The guy was starting shortstop for a while, struggled though with the bat. 243 with the Braves last year. They went out and traded for Paul Janisch to get some help defensively there late in the year because Simmons came up and he got hurt. The Braves are going to have Simmons when he comes back from the World Baseball Classic. They also signed Ramiro Pena from the Yankees, who's had a good camp so far. You wonder if his chances get hurt because he's away at the WBC, but he's impressed Braves officials.
Well, you would think that Pasternicki would be a guy that you'd want to play every day. You wouldn't want him to sit on the bench. Janisch did a nice job for them when he came up, or was traded for from Cincinnati last year, but he's recovering from off-season surgery. So you see Josh Edgen getting loose in the bullpen.
Braves have taken the lead over the Mets here in the 7th on a Chris Johnson home run. Pasternicki fooled on the off speed. It's 1-2. Also played Tyler at second. He had a little outfield trying to make him have some utility qualities, but I would imagine as it stands right now he would start the year in AAA. Gorski's 1-2. You talked about that playoff game last year. It's crazy what happens when you get in the postseason, right? Here the Braves, they were 5th best in the major leagues. They didn't make errors last year. They made 3 in the game, 3 unearned runs, which cost them dearly. And of course, that infamous infield fly rule. Chance at second for Flores. Bobbles can't make the play. Pasternicki a base hit there.
Well, Gorski tries to reach down and get that ball as barehanded, goes by him, and you can see Flores with the bobble. Once that happened, the speed of Pasternicki, easily a base hit up the middle. You know, being a shortstop, Flores used to kind of running around that baseball, getting on his forehand. From the second base position, really have to backhand that to get it to first quicker.
Learning experience for Flores, who's actually had a pretty good spring over at second base as he continues to learn. Meanwhile, the Braves send up Pagnozzi here, Matt Pagnozzi, Tom's nephew, I believe. So there's some baseball bloodlines there.
Getting old. He used to face his father, who was an outstanding catcher for the Cardinals. Uncle, sorry.
Actually, speaking of the Cardinals, pretty neat story today that I read. I want to say it was in the St. Louis newspaper. You know, we were talking about Stan Musial the other day when the Cardinals were here, and all about Stan the man. He sent a video message to Steven Strasburg when he got home from his surgery from Tommy John last year. Never met him. Strasburg never met Musial. But according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, you know, he got hurt. So Strasburg, I guess they announced that, you know, that he got hurt, that he had the Tommy John injury when they were playing the Cardinals. So people from the organization sent their thoughts. Well, when he got home from the surgery, Musial sent a video message to Strasburg saying, hey, you're going to be better than ever when you come back. Strasburg obviously blown away by that.
Wow.
And who wouldn't be, right?
Prince of a man. He'll be missed. A little history for these Braves, right? They're 138th year in the National League. 77 in Boston, 13 in Milwaukee, and now have been in Atlanta since 1966. They might not call a balk on Darren Gorski's move to first, but boy, it sure looks like one, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really step towards first base.
Two and one of Pagnozzi. Fixler can't get it. Tovar pops in and out of his glove, and everybody's safe. Braves have 2 on with 2 down, back to the top of the order.
Well, these infields tend to be hard in spring training. That topspin gets by Bickler. Tovar's only play would have been to come up with that cleanly and a throw to second, but really probably wasn't a play. It's ruled correctly a base hit.
Now to bring up Jordan Schaefer, one-time Brave who went to the Astros, didn't make it with Houston, and the Braves picked him back up.
Well, he came out of spring training as their starting center fielder and just couldn't hit enough, struck out a lot, was sent to Houston, and then claimed back by Atlanta off waivers. So second chances for Schaefer.
Watches the breaking ball sail away. Well, the Braves up 3-2, 2 on with 2 outs, and Darren Gorski.
You know, Schaefer really is kind of a mirror of the Mets' Matt Dendecker. He's that a guy that can really play defense. He's got some speed. You know, the only question is he going to be able to be consistent and hit in the major leagues. It's eluded Schaefer so far.
And very similar to Dendecker, strikeouts the big issue offensively. And you know, we were talking about before how Dendecker, sometimes the power for him can be tantalizing because he can hit the home run, but it's knowing when not to take that same power stroke. That's a great point, Ronnie.
Well, the home runs for Dendecker should come as a surprise, not trying to hit them.
Big cut there, and it's 1-2.
Seeing the tattoos for Jordan Schaefer on his forearm. Didn't Elvis Andrus miss a couple of games because of tattoo poisoning or something, right?
Yeah, he had some soreness, I think, but he was getting a tattoo to honor his father. Nicely done. Gorski paints the corner. Schaefer down on strike. Second strikeout of the inning for Gorski. Braves, though, take the lead on the Chris Johnson homer. Braves have a bunch of changes as we go to the bottom of the 7th. Catcher Matt Pagnazzi, we saw him hit in the last half inning. Then we go around the horn. Ernesto Mejia in at first base now. Joe Leonard, the new third baseman for Atlanta. Here's a good one. Terdoslavich in left. He's had a great spring for the Braves. Schaefer, we saw him bat and strike out in center. And then we've got the new pitcher for Atlanta. It's David Hale taking his turn.
Well, from Marietta, Georgia, Princeton University. Had a strong season last year in 27 starts.
Braves do a good job of scouting their own state, don't they?
They do.
They always have had a ton of local folks in their organization, and successful ones too. As Wilmer Flores will get his first at bat here in the 7th, replacing Justin Turner. Wilmer getting closer to getting in the major leagues, and boy, he's really matured so much. I remember interviewing him when he was 17 years old in the backfield, trying to grow into his body and trying to learn English, and sat down and talking with him today, and he's so comfortable with who he is, so confident. He speaks English well now. Feels like he's been around forever. He's been in this camp since he was a teenager.
It's a hard thing, right? Signed at 16 or 17, you have to wait your 6-7 years before you get your chance.
Yeah.
It's it takes a lot of patience and endurance from these young athletes.
He's still only 21 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like he's 28, 29. Well, he was a good hitter. I mean, 311 in AA Binghamton last year. 8 home runs, 33 RBI. Started the year in St. Lucie. All told last year, he had 18 home runs and 30 doubles. Full count to him here. And as you saw, it's trying to find a position for him now. I mean, he's shortstop. That's gone. They played third base. Pointless to do that with David Wright there.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to make second base his home. He's got good hands, even though he bobbled the one the last inning. It's working on the footwork with him. We'll start the year in AAA Vegas this year, you would think. And put it this way, if there's an injury or a spot where position player comes up, Wilmer Flores could be that guy. Got jammed a little bit. Still gave it a little bit of a ride to left. Terdoslavich puts it away, 1 down.
Flores, when you look at him, it's pretty interesting. He's got almost the same body type that Miguel Cabrera had when he was 19 or 20 years old. Just tall and strong.
.30-year-old veteran Brian Bixler takes the breaking ball in the corner for strike 1. Bixler originally drafted by the Pirates in the 2nd round of 2004 out of Eastern Michigan. Home of Terry Collins.
That's right.
Another breaking ball. That one misses.
If you don't know Eastern Michigan and you're not a college baseball fan, they have excellent baseball teams every year. Great program.
She had a 32-game hitting streak at Eastern Michigan.
I played in the Cape League with a few guys from Eastern Michigan, and all of them well-schooled, outstanding players.
If you just tuned into this one, Jeremy Hefner got the start. 3 innings for him, only allowed a run, the home run to Justin Upton. Mets then saw Rafael Montero come in, 2 innings as Bixler draws the walk. Allowed 1 run in his time. Good inning of work for J.R.'s Familia today. And then Gorski. The Braves, Tim Hudson started and was pretty sharp. 4 innings, allowed 2 runs on 6 hits. Avilon came on, was dominant in his inning of work, and David Hale, the fourth pitcher. Upton is a home run. Chris Johnson a home run for Atlanta. Marlon Byrd with 2 RBIs for the Mets. Josh Edgin warming. We'll see him in the next inning. Also news of Kurt Neuenhuis. Mentioned earlier in the broadcast about injuring his left knee sliding into a base in Jupiter yesterday. Got the MRI back. Good news is no ligament damage, no structural damage. Calling it a bone bruise, and Neuenhuis telling reporters earlier he's maybe a couple days, maybe a week, but that's certainly better than the year.
Yeah.
So good news for Kurt Neuenhuis as we wish him well getting back to full health. Alfredo Tovar's first step out of the game. Perez on his horse makes the catch. 2 down. Now it's Matt Den Decker will get his 4th at bat. He's 1 for 3 with a single, a steal, and a run scored. You wonder right now, you've got still a long time for this camp is over. I mean, nearly a month left in Mets camp, but are people starting to kind of step forward in this outfield race? I mean, Terry Collins said initially that Lucas Duda is his left fielder, and that appears to be true, but so far you'd have to say that Marlon Byrd and Colin Cowgill have taken a step forward of everyone else.
Well, it'll be interesting if they do decide to leave camp with the extra outfielders and have a platoon in both center and right field.
That ball, Pagnazzi had no idea where it was, and Bixler paying attention, going to go all the way down the third. Quite the bounce. I wonder if that hit off his shin guard. I couldn't tell.
Sounded like it hit off his mask at some point. Let's see the ball in the dirt. Doesn't get in front of it to block it, so it runs right up his arm, forearm, hits his mask, and goes to the right. And the tough part for the catchers in that part, usually have everyone in the field saying, it's over there.
Where?
Yeah, exactly.
Where?
Thanks a lot.
Got the mask off, your head's on a swivel.
No, you have everyone yelling, over there, over there. Come on, need a little more information.
Meanwhile, Den Decker, we talked earlier about how he really dominated Double-A and then really the opposite struggled in Triple-A. Neuenhuis on the show for a little while. Is there any way that he can make enough of a showing here to make Terry Collins even think about taking him north, or is it just set in stone he's going to go to Triple-A and hit a little bit more? It's a discussion for another time as he grounds to second base. Inning over. Mets have a runner on third. They strand him. It's the Braves 3-2 through 7. Juan Lagares replacing Matt Den Decker in center field. And Josh Edgin on the mound for the Mets here in the 8th.
Well, he's going to play a big part in that bullpen for the Mets this season. Edgin, who came up, I think, against these Braves last season. And they really have a lot of a lot of hope that he can fill that role of not only being a guy who can come in and get left-handers out, but also a guy that can give them 2-3 innings when they need it.
I think you're right. He did come up. Didn't he? Did he allow a home run at Chipper?
Chipper Jones, yeah.
Wouldn't be the first. Edgin really showed you something last year, and talk about a rapid ascent. The guy just flew through the system last season and came up and impressed. And he is, as you were talking about before, Ronnie, the guy that can get out lefties and righties.
Well, when you're tapped for a fraternity and they have their hazing, well, for a hazing for a Mets pitcher is at some point you got to give up a home run to Chipper Jones. But those days are done now.
That is true. Edgin facing Jordan Perez. And, Josh, this is his third appearance of the spring so far. You'd have to think, though, barring something catastrophic, that he is close to a lock to being on this team. I mean, he is promising on for this team's future. But Perez lifts one to center. Lagares has the beat, makes the catch. One away in the eighth.
It's pretty interesting. I read early in camp, and you never know when you read some stuff whether it's just hyperbole or food for fodder or whatever they were saying. Edgin, who was, a high school wrestling champ, and kind of a gamer type of attitude, that they were going to try to reel him back a little. And I was like, please do not do that. Let him just be himself. Ultra competitive, right at people, throwing strikes and aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what kind of makes him be able to handle some of these situations, you think?
It's like Goose Gossage. We should reel him in a little bit. He's a little too temperamental out there. I mean, let him go. Let him fly.
I'd have to think there's a certain feel that, being on the mat one-on-one against another person in front of a ton of people in a state championship in Pennsylvania, where wrestling's a big sport, that stage probably serves him well.
Yeah, huge sport.
As we see Evan Gattis batting for the Braves here in the eighth, one down.
Interesting stance here by Gattis. He's a big guy that has kind of a low crouch in his approach to the pitcher.
Catcher, and he's an outfielder. A good spring that impressed the Braves last year. He's off to a good spring this year. Started out in Carolina League last year and went to Double-A. Hit .258 with Mississippi, 13 doubles, 9 homers, 37 runs batted in.
And this is when you want to pitch a BB into the stands.
I think that got someone too.
Yeah. This is when you want to pitch if you're a guy coming into the spring training game. You got the shadows right in front of the hitters, making it a little more difficult. Look at that.
Oof.
Give me a ball.
Gattis doesn't let the shadows get to him. He's got a one-out base hit. That'll bring up Joe Tradoslavich, who has really had a good spring. So what he did last year with Mississippi. Ten hits, 16 at bats so far, with a double and a home run. That's a way to get noticed. And he takes strike one from Edgin.
It's the nephew of Mike Greenwell, talented outfielder for the Boston Red Sox.
He takes quickly in the hole 0-2. This Braves team does not have a lot of open competition right now. I mean, the fifth starter, although I think that's going to be Tehran's job. Certainly third base with Francisco and Johnson, but they're both going to make the team. Tradoslavich to center. Lagares can't get there. Gattis showing off the wheels. He goes to third. First and third, one out for Atlanta. One interesting thing, though, about their outfield is Jorge Constanza is not here yet. He's had some visa issues. And, look, he's going to be on this team if he's here, but he's not yet, and it's early March. That's got to concern the Braves. Similar thing that happened to Henry Mejia, you know, the age check thing that's going on down there. So a guy like Gaddis or Tradoslavich trying to kind of say, hey, I'm here if you need somebody.
Yeah, I'm right now in a position to try to change my age personally, but but they're doing a much better job of that, of course.
Joe Leonard, his first at bat of the game. He's got an RBI situation against Edgin.
That's interesting. You know, Edgin, we think about as a breaking ball pitcher with that great fastball. Not a breaking ball pitcher, good breaking ball to go along with that heat. But got hurt with Gaddis on a changeup up in the strike zone. So he's working on that pitch here in this inning.
How does that work? If you're Josh Edgin, you know, we up here in the booth say, yeah, he's, 90% bet to make the team. He doesn't think that way.
We better not. I mean,
at all.
No.
So how can you afford to work on something if you're at that point of your career?
Well, you work on something until you get runners on base, and then you start bringing the good stuff.
Gotcha.
You know, so he threw a real good one to Gaddis early in the at bat, and then had one up in the strike zone that Gaddis had hit for a base hit. But you want to work on that stuff, but then, you know, when you get in a little trouble, then you get a little stingy. So you go back to your good stuff now.
It's 1-2 to Leonard. Upstairs with 92 miles an hour. Bixler on the short hop. Only play to first. Pulls Hicks off the bag, but he makes the tag. But nonetheless, score the run as Leonard gets the RBI ground out. 4-2 Atlanta.
Well, it's interesting, you know, with the game, one run lead for the Braves. You might have thought in a regular season game, you might try to bring this ball home. He had plenty of time maybe to make a play to home, but Bixler decides to take the sure out.
It didn't look that way.
You know, you're taught in that situation. You go to your left, you want to try to get the double play. If you come in, if you have time, you want to make the play to home. But Bixler chose to get the sure out.
So the first at bat for Ernesto Mejia now as Edgin misses outside for ball one.
Some big numbers there, Kevin.
Bobby Parnell. Terry Collins has had him actually closing games in the ninth this spring. Still sticking with that. A lot of times you see the closers earlier in games to face better hitters and honestly to get out of here earlier. But he's kept Bobby pitching in the ninth of these spring games.
Mets pitchers are channeling Lincoln, aren't they? In spring training.
Very much so.
You got to be saying to yourself, you're Ernesto Mejia at first base. Now, how do I break in with this team? I can't go to the outfield. They're tied up there. Freddie Freeman's playing first base. Huge numbers.
And he's 23. 1-2, he stays alive. And Jared Diamond of the Journal had an article about that. I think it was yesterday. About what if you're a minor league third baseman or a third baseman here with the Mets? What's your mind? What do you do?
Punt. Fine.
You learn another position. That's what you do. And that's what's happened. That's why Zach Lutz is playing the outfield. Why Wilmer Flores is playing second base. Because you're not going to play third.
That might be the one time you go to your agent and say, earn your pay, buddy. we need to go someplace else.
While Edgin trying to get at it with just the one run allowed for his outing this afternoon.
Nice block by Anthony Recker there. 25 years the Mets now have been here in Port St. Lucie.
Edgin's 2-2. And he got him. Edgin gets Mejia with the whiff on the hands. Braves lead it, though, 4-2 over the Mets. Some spring training drills going on at second base. Oh, it looks like a Daniel Murphy appearance.
Yep.
Fielding there, and Murphy has been, battling that intercostal strain at his right side. Got a cortisone injection a week ago. He is, at least we're told, very close, I guess, right, Ronnie?
I saw Murph today. I said, "How you feeling?" He said, "Great." So, eternal optimist.
Cowgill to right. And there's one down.
What's great about spring training, if you're a fan, is you get to see the team taking infield. You don't get to see that anymore before games. Teams around baseball just don't do it anymore. So to watch the hum babe of the infield as guys toss that ball around is really fun to watch.
Braves, we're in the bottom of the 8th inning right now. Alex Wood here ready for the 9th is Brandon Hicks with a big cut. Hicks has a spring training home run to his credit. He's got some power. 18 home runs each of the last 2 years in the minor leagues. Trying to win a reserve infielder spot for the Mets, facing David Hale in his second inning of work for Atlanta.
Talking about backup infielders, it's already paid off. You were mentioning for Call before. They signed Ronnie Cedeno this winter, so he's going to, with Pete Kozma, have a chance to get some at-bats.
Hale, nasty breaking ball there as Hicks down on strikes. Mets single game tickets for the 2013 season at Citi Field on sale now. Get your tickets for the Mets opening day, the Subway Series, and the rest of the All-Star season. Tickets start at $12 at Mets.com or by phone at 718-507-TIXX. Ticket operators standing by right now. Mike Baxter's first at-bat of the game. Subbing in for Marlon Byrd, and right, Byrd had the 2 RBIs for the Mets today. And Byrd has gotten a lot of time in right field. Baxter has not gotten the starts in right that Marlon Byrd has thus far.
Well, I think in some ways, Kevin, and it's maybe works against Mike. I think Terry Collins and staff know what Mike can do. You know, Marlon Byrd's coming off a kind of a forgotten year, so they really want to play him and see if Marlon's back to where he was a few seasons ago when he was an all-star. And so far, the answer is a resounding yes.
Yeah. Gets under the glove of Mejia. Mike Baxter has a 2-out single. I'll bring up Lucas Duda, who's still in the game. Lucas 0 for 3. Happened to see crazy news about Brian Cashman earlier today. He was skydiving for a charity, I believe. And, of course, general manager of the Yanks does it the first time. Loved it so much that he wanted to go back up again. Goes back up and skydives again. Give him a lot of credit. I don't think I'd be able to do it.
What's he have against, like, a golf event?
Yeah. Well, that's what some other people do. You know, he climbs skyscrapers and makes it interesting. You know, he's a daredevil. Well, he did it the second time, and he came down and broke his ankle. Yeah, just horrible stuff for Brian Cashman. And so we wish him well. Because you don't think about that part when you go up and do something like that. The downside. So Cashman had to be carted off with the ambulance, has the fracture in the ankle. Crazy scene.
Well, luckily his job is on the cell phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Duda gets popped up. Fitch coming in hard, makes the catch, and the inning is over. So Duda leads a runner on first. Here's what's great about spring training. Look how close you can get. He's taking a picture of Bobby Parnell, who we'll see next on the mound for the Mets. Bobby Parnell on for the Mets in the 9th inning, and right now he is the closer, and with Frank Francisco lagging behind, still nursing that elbow, Bobby Parnell is the guy right now for Terry Collins.
Yeah, getting a lot of work too, his 4th appearance.
These guys have been stretching since the time the sun came up this morning.
The bands, that's the new, not the new thing, it's been around forever, but that's what they use to get loose and stretch.
Blake DeWitt, former first-round pick of the Dodgers back in '04. Former Dodger, former Cub. Next broadcast here of the Mets on SNY will be on Thursday. Mets Marlins, 1 o'clock start right here on SNY. Don't want to miss that one. Mets have an off day tomorrow for most of them. They are playing in a B game tomorrow. Sean Markham and Pedro Feliciano, the Troy Hawkins will get their work there, but most of the team is off. And then exhibition against Venezuela for the World Baseball Classic will be on Wednesday for that game against the Marlins, televised on Thursday. Leadoff single for Blake DeWitt against Bobby Parnell.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You doing that game on Thursday, Kevin?
I am. Yeah, how about you?
It's going to be good. Yeah, I am. It's going to be interesting to talk a little bit about the Marlins and the kind of tumultuous offseason that they've had, right? And all the turnover.
John Kazmar, one-time Met farmhand, is pinch running for the Braves right now. Ricky Nolasco and Matt Harvey for the Mets, so that'll be fun. See Harvey throw. You know, it's I was watching some of the games Saturday that Keith and Gary did, and boy, I didn't know anybody. I mean, you know, I knew names, but it's just, even though spring training you get a lot of guys you don't know anyway.
Yeah,
it's just so weird. You know, some of the names that were not only there last year, but you're just used to kind of hearing it. Gone. A lot of young, talented guys, by the way, but very different.
New manager Mike Redmond. And I think the most difficult thing for that ball club this year is that, and for Tino Martinez, who's now their hitting instructor, is, I mean, it should be a fine if you pitch to Giancarlo Stanton on that team, right? I mean, if you're the opposing team and you give up, you know, with someone on base, a hit.
And how's he going to handle that? I mean, how is he going to handle trying to, you know, be patient and just. That's going to be hard, I would think, don't you think?
I think it's going to be hard, but he's, you know, he's a monster. He's just really good. So, you know, hopefully he'll be able to be patient enough, and when he gets his pitch, not miss it.
Well, Stanton's on the USA WBC squad, so I'm sure David Wright might come back to Sandy Alderson and say, hey, you know, if you got a couple guys you want to send down to Miami for him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that would be cool.
Outfield problems solved.
Well, I think that would take an awful lot to get Giancarlo Stanton from the Marlins.
Yeah, I don't know what letter the owner, Mr. Loria, would have to write if he sent him away. It would be tough.
Just an addendum to the initial letter to the fans. 1-2, Parnell to Elmer Reyes. And he got him. Well, Parnell registers his first strikeout.
Boy, I'm thinking that's got to be the knuckle curve, and it was. Good break on that pitch. That's honestly what I'd like to see in spring training is Bobby get to the point where the strikeouts go up a little bit. You know, by the end of the year last year, he had incredible numbers for ground ball, which is good to have, but there's going to be circumstances where he's going to need a strikeout, and like to see those inch up for Bobby.
Matt Pagnozzi's second at bat, single his last time up. So we'll watch Matt Harvey pitch on our air on Thursday. Mets will again have the day off tomorrow, although we told you those guys, Markham and Feliciano and Hawkins, pitching at a B game. Venezuela, Jonathan Neese will start that game. Jonathan's had a different start to the spring. He faced Michigan. He's going to face Venezuela tomorrow.
That's right.
One guy you're not seeing in there is Johan Santana, and that's kind of how yesterday and today was. There goes the runner. Here comes a throw from Recker. It's high, stolen base for Blake DeWitt. And the organization putting out the vibe, and Sandy Alderson basically saying in a matter of words, even though Alderson didn't use the word unhappy, but read between the lines, they were a little disappointed in that Santana might not be in prime pitching shape. But you know, look, he rested for the first time in 4 years in the offseason. He's rehabbed every year as a Met for the most part. So he rested. The bottom line is, Ronnie, he came and threw a couple bullpens, and his arm, his shoulder, whatever it is, did not feel the way that he thought it would feel.
Well, also that one of those times, and you were there, Kevin.
That one hopped.
It was one of the rare. Boy, he's off the base there.
Yep.
Hicks thought he stayed with that play. He should have tagged the runner going by, but the first base umpire, Angel Hernandez, ruled him safe. Let's see. Yeah, Hicks is not even close to the base.
I mean, that was Todd Helton close.
All right.
Now batting number 17, center fielder Jordan.
Well, I think the thing with Santana is that if you're worried about him being ready, then boy, you're in some trouble. It's interesting. As soon as that Sandy had his comments, of course, Santana's response, he threw on the side yesterday. So you know, I think that for a veteran like Santana, and I don't know if this is true, and I probably should have asked him before today's game, but you know, he was used to the Twins throwing routinely 220, 230 innings. And a lot of times in the offseason, you don't do a lot because you just, you know, you want to save those bullets. You know, you don't want to, you know, the last couple of years as we see some people out there fishing, you know, he was throwing all of December, all of January, all of February, getting ready.
I think someone lost a contact. I'll take a sea bass.
So that's the fresh snapper they tell that you have at the restaurant tonight. You know, I'm confident that Johan's going to be ready. He might not be ready for opening day, but he's certainly going to be ready in the first week. And you know, it's unfortunate, just, you know, miscommunication. A lot of times you have the general manager and all the coaches getting together after practice, and you're talking about certain players and who's where and who's there and who can we count on, who's you know, a little lagging behind, and sometimes that seeps into conversations with the reporters, and that's the, you know, the unfortunate thing. You know, the older you get, more experience you have, the less that you want to throw in spring training. You want to get ready, but you don't want to waste all your bullets here.
Johan didn't talk to the media yesterday. I was not here yesterday, but in passing, he just said, "What's spring training for?"
Yeah, he dropped an Allen Iverson almost on us, right?
We're talking about practice. But I don't know. I just thought the timing was really strange. I mean, you know, to think Johan, who's got as much a competitor in him as anyone, I just think simply this. He was surprised his arm didn't react the way he thought it would after wrestling the whole offseason. That's it. So we'll see if it turns into a story. Santana did work out today. You just saw the video, and slated tentatively to be on the mound Wednesday. A side session. Here, Six trying to turn two. Stepped on first. They need the tag at second. Got it. So Brandon Hicks makes up being off the bag earlier. Nicely turned double play. And the Braves are done here in the ninth. Mets last chance, trailing by 2. Well, later tonight, we bring you Geico Sports Night at 10:30. We've got coverage of this game, Braves and Mets, interviews, recap, highlights, everything New York sports. I'm talking everything. Geico Sports Night tonight at 10:30, only on SNY. Alex Wood will try and close things down for the Braves here in the ninth.
So everything, they're going to talk about that pass from J.R. Smith to Carmelo yesterday? They've already done that.
I think they've had plenty of pictures of still photos of LeBron slamming down buckets at the Garden yesterday. I think they've tried to move on from that. I don't know if it's possible. Anthony Record leads it off for the Mets against Wood, who Braves second-round draft pick last year out of the University of Georgia.
Yeah, he was a star there. He had Tommy John surgery in 2010 while he was there. Got a medical red shirt, but you can see a lot of arms and legs motion coming from Alex as he faces the hitters.
Carlos Torres warming in the Mets pen. I don't know if the Mets tied if we would go to a 10th, but Torres getting in his work. For our broadcast purposes, hopefully sunspots would interfere with the 10th inning.
Sunspots.
Record off the glove. He's got himself a hit. Record has shown he's got some zip in that bat. Got a home run this spring. Pretty well struck ball there. He's ready to become the backup catcher. Sorry.
Yeah, no, same, Kevin. Record, along with Landon Powell and others, trying to win that backup spot.
Here's Wilmer Flores, the tying run at the plate for the Mets in the 9th, and he takes strike 1 from Wood. Flores came into the game at second base, flew out to left field, is only at bat in the 7th inning. I'm trying to think who Wood's delivery reminds me of. You're right. There's a lot of arms and legs going there.
Yeah, it's a little erratic, and that's probably what makes it so difficult to pick up.
Two to Flores. That's right in on the hands. And it goes off of Pagnozzi, but Flores is out. That was a tough pitch.
A couple of change-ups and then this high fastball right by Flores, and it surprised the catcher also. Pagnozzi as it goes to the backstop.
You're talking about picking up the pitcher. I don't know that Flores saw that one all too well. So now Bixler with an opportunity. He walked his first at bat.
Oh, man. That's as bad as it gets for the hitters.
And no wonder why you couldn't pick it up. You got the motion of Wood, dealing the heat on your hands, and then you got that. Brian Bixler fighting for a reserve infielder spot on this Mets squad. Play basically anywhere in the infield. Just needs to show a little offense. Base hit here could go some way in helping him stand out a little bit. One.
Well, one thing that Bixler's got on his side is he's got some good speed. You know, that would add to the Mets bench to have some speed. A balk right there by Alex Wood, but not called by the umpires. You saw him start to lean forward and then kind of readjust it. But spring training, 9th inning. Let it go.
Got the 5 o'clock reservation.
That's right. Had to be fighting through people.
They're ordering that mahi mahi that the woman was fishing out of the stream behind.
There's no mahi mahi there. I'll tell you that.
They still out there, I wonder? I think they might be eaten. They were definitely alligator issues out there. Oh, there she is. She's behind the tree there. I tell you honestly, just to be out there is brave enough. There's definitely some gators out there.
Oh, absolutely. Mets pitchers in the day when the Mets first came here in 1988 would run back behind there as Bixler walks. Mets have a rally here tonight, and he used to go out there and he'd bring a sawed-off end of the bat just in case one came your way.
I don't know if that would still make me feel any better.
It made you run faster, Kevin.
That's for sure. Well, Mets have the tying runs on base with one down for Wilfredo Tovar. Flew out to right field his first at-bat. Chance for the young shortstop. Tie up this game with an extra base hit. Tovar chewing on the necklace for good luck. Inside corner for a strike from Alex Wood. Tell you one thing, he's not afraid to come inside, is he?
Yeah, he has the pitch inside. His real strength is throws hard enough, but he's got a good changeup that he's shown here in this inning. We forget sometimes that this young guy out there closing this game, he's got a 2-run lead. There's nerves out there, you know.
All right, so I gotta mention on Twitter about the Wood lookalike windup. How about John Rocker?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
I could see that.
I haven't discussed with Alex's politics yet, but
I didn't say personality.
Okay,
I just said windup.
Yeah.
Cue shot to short. Reyes will try to turn two, and they do it. And the ball game is over. Tovar grounds into the double play, and the Braves hang on for a 4-2 win over the Mets this afternoon at Tradition Field.
Well, I think the one thing you can say for Terry Collins' squad is another strong game from Marlon Byrd, but the home runs of Chris Johnson and Justin Upton were enough for the Atlanta Braves this afternoon.
Yeah, Mets looking for a little bit more well-rounded offense, but they're getting some good signs, certainly from Byrd. Ike Davis with a double today. Jeremy Hefner with a good start, but it's the Braves that come away with the victory. Justin Upton with a home run, his second of the spring for Atlanta. Byrd drove in 2 for the Mets. Mets baseball on SNY brought to you today by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Toyota. Buy a Toyota right now. Save big. To learn more, visit Toyota.com. And by Xerox, ready for real business. Once again, your final score, the Braves take down the Mets 4-2 this afternoon here at Tradition Field. Our next broadcast on SNY will come your way Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Mets and Marlins in that one. For Ron Darling and the rest of our SNY crew, I'm Kevin Burkhardt saying thanks for watching. Have a great